2018 meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. We'll begin tonight with voting the minutes of April 18th.
I move to accept as written.
Well, I would second, except that I didn't participate in all the hearings.
Yes. I didn't participate in the entire thing either, but I did read the minutes. And the one thing I noticed is that in the discussion of the White Bay aquaculture project, I was mentioned twice as reading out the vote as unanimous, and that's what I was recused from, so I think that needs to change to change.
Okay. Move to accept the minutes as corrected.
No.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
You had a second.
Anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? So moved. Next, we have request for a continuance under a notice of intent. Joan Foster, care of Jack Foster, Lot 11, Chase Road, map 14-15A-002C-00011, West Falmouth, Massachusetts. I believe this has already been read into the record?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Jen, so continuance.
Madam Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until June 2nd.
So moved.
6th.
Oh, it's June 6th, I'm sorry. I have the number 6 in my head. Thank you. June 6th.
666? 66.
6/6.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions from the board? Anything from the public? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? So moved. So if anyone is here for Lot 11 Chase Road, it's not going to be heard tonight. Okay, request for determination of applicability. These are applications where what the applicant would like to hear is a negative determination, meaning that they do not need to go to the next level of application. Joseph and Joan Valley, 415 Shorewood Drive, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to construct an addition onto the existing single-family dwelling and a separate boat storage garage.
Yes, Madam Chairman, we are recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments from the board? Anything from the public? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? So moved.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, now we have request for determination under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. Great, good evening, Mike.
Good evening, Madam Chairman. Members of the commission.
Excuse me, I didn't read this. Stephen Ballas and Michael Cachadorian, Lot 64, Muskeget Road, map 32-04-008-087, and Lot 77, Muskeget Road, map 32-04-008-077, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to install a 3x12 ramp and a 4-foot by 20-foot, that should say float, with two 10-inch diameter pilings connected to the existing licensed concrete bulkhead.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant. There are co-applicants on this. Mr. Cachadorian owns Lot 77, and Mr. Bayless owns Lot 87, which has a house number 64, Muskeget. And they both are abutting properties with a common boundary shown here. They have frontage on an offshoot of Eel Pond that was a man-made bulkheaded canal, and it's currently surrounded on all sides by various floats and docks that serve other properties adjacent to the applicants. Mr. Bayless has, for a very long time, had a float tied up against this bulkhead He discovered it has no actual permits or licenses with the town. He took certain steps to begin a licensing and permitting process for the waterfront, and he did so by first applying for and submitting an application. I think he submitted an RDA to this commission to license the bulkhead that was on his and Mr. Kachadorian's frontage. He received a negative determination and proceeded to the state for a Chapter 91 license. He did so to legitimize the bulkhead on his frontage. He's now before this commission in hopes of obtaining a permit to allow him to install, or I should say realign the existing float from alongside to perpendicular to shore. And the concept is that both of the applicants would share one on each side a boat, and it would be connected to the bulkhead by a ramp. There's a profile showing that. The float would meet the standards for separation from the bottom of 3-foot minimum at low tide. It's at extreme low tide. It's pile supported, so we're proposing to install 2 pilings, one at each end, to hold it in place. The mooring field is shown on the plan. The soundings demonstrate adequate water depth. The concept would be that Mr. Kachadorian eventually would have a path that would lead from his property down to the common concrete walkway. Mr. Bayless currently has an access down. In fact, we're asking permission to remove and replace some timbers that are on the slope in this location. I think that sums it up. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mike. Jen, do you have anything?
Mike, what is the navigational issue in that channel right now? Are there any?
Well, I failed to mention, we submitted a letter to the harbor master. He doesn't have any issues, which isn't a surprise. It's sort of a private area. The navigation situation is that, you know, everyone in the channel tries to make best use of the limited room. So it's sort of, you know, common courtesy, boats come and go, and they're all tied in places that, you know, minimize the potential for conflicts with navigation. One of the reasons we're taking this float and turning it is because when there's a boat tied here, it makes it difficult for Mr. Bayless to tie his boat alongside. So, I mean, that's pretty much my understanding of the current situation.
Anything else, Jen?
Not right now, Madam
All
Chairman.
right. Mark?
No comments.
Peter?
No comments.
Steve?
No comments.
Jamie?
Like bumper boats,
Yeah.
negotiate with your neighbor to get a narrow
What
boat.
you guys are doing?
I'm good.
Betsy?
I have to tell you, Mike, I was a little confused when I saw this. In that when I first looked at it, I said, well, it's a dock application, and there are no depths indicated, and there's no shellfish indicated. And then I thought about it a little more, and I said, well, if they have permission to use that float, then obviously there would be a boat into there. Therefore, having it out to here probably is putting it in deeper water.
Yep.
So that's my analysis at this point. I just want to tell you where I'm sort of coming from.
Sure, I'm
Plan
confused
should have
about...
soundings, though.
Well, it does have soundings.
Ours don't.
Nope.
There may not have been delivered a revised version, but ours don't have
No.
soundings.
They're in the lower corner,
Where?
the lower left corner.
No, but they're
No,
not
that's the
soundings under the
profile.
mooring field.
Oh, that's just the profile?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
That's okay.
Mike, we have no soundings on that. Do you have soundings on yours up there?
I thought I could see them from here.
Just so you know that I'm not making it
No,
up.
I
I could
actually
see
thought
them
I
up
could
there.
see them from here, and I see that you do, but
You've
could
heard
you
it.
make sure we get that version?
You've heard other engineers talk about layers, and it's not an excuse other than somehow that layer was shut off. I don't understand that. So I apologize for that, but you should have all these numbers on your plan.
Right.
Yeah.
And I didn't see it.
Well, we can see that it's done, so that's good.
I'm happy
What
to
are
see
they?
it.
Please do.
When you go up there, could you just say them to us?
Sure.
So maybe we could write them on. The one to the north, which would be at Cachadorian, what's at the mooring field there?
The minus 4.2, minus
Yep.
3.6, minus 3.2. On the other side, minus 4.9, minus 4.3, minus 3.5, minus 3.5,
Don't worry about it.
minus 4.7, minus 3.8.
And what's at the old dock, the one that they're gonna remove?
This one here, this one is minus 2.9, and this one over here, minus 2.3, minus 2, so there's a little low point here.
Yeah.
So we're pulling that out into deeper water. I don't know how that happened. Well, I do, but I don't have an excuse for it.
Anything else?
Oh, no, I had a lot of questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Betsy
I
was
thought
still
you were done.
busy.
You're not going?
I am done, that was my question. That's
Okay.
my analysis, and that was my question.
Maureen?
Okay, I'm confused too, because the application is both parties, am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
There's no house on 77?
Right.
Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, you can't have a structure without a dwelling, and a dock is a structure, so how does that work?
It's allowed, and under zoning, you can have a dock without any primary dwelling if it's a common dock. So
Okay,
that's what
so
we
I didn't
apply.
see where this was, where you propose it as common. And
Well,
then I
it's-
read the regulations for common.
Yeah, well, it's
in
in the
our-
narrative that it's a common.
Yeah, and then the regulations, what they state, so, okay. And then, when you say that, then the next question, again with this confusion, is the Chapter 91 license is under Mr. Cachadorian's name, correct? The one that, this one, the
Under
Commonwealth
the-
of Mass, in January 25th, 2018, the application is under Michael Cachadorian. But the float is actually only on Mr. Ballas's property at that time. They don't both join, it's not a common dock yet. It's a single-person dock, right? Okay.
Yes, so.
So how did Mr. Ballas not apply for the single float instead of Mr. Cachadorian did when it's not his float?
When Mr. Bellis acquired the property, he was offered a float. He had no knowledge that he needed to do anything to get permits for a float until, I think he discovered that when he hired his engineer and they, which was Warwick and Associates Barbara Frappier, to license the bulkhead. And he became aware of the fact that you're supposed to have a permit for the float. So he advanced the plan as a first step to license the bulkhead with Mr. Cachadorian. So the float's just been there and with no real standing. It has no permits, so it's technically an illegal float today. So what we're here to do is make it legal and make it in a place that it can be permitted.
Okay, so the Commonwealth of Mass, Chapter 91 license that I'm looking at
Mhm.
is in Mr. Cachadorian's name for the illegal float, or the unpermitted float.
No,
All right, then why this is in 1/25/2018.
Is that for the float or for the
it's
bulkhead?
for the
That's
bulkhead.
for the bulkhead.
That's for the
It's for the
bulkhead.
bulkhead only. To
Okay,
license and
thank you.
maintain
All
a
right,
concrete
good.
bulkhead.
Now I'm not as confused. I was very confused. But then, all right, so then you go to the next page, and then the same time it says existing float to be removed. So
Right.
this is where you're at right now. You're not removing it, you're permitting it.
Well, the
You're gonna
one
try
that's- It's going to be removed and relocated. I mean, they went, in 2017, they designated the float to be removed. I'm
Okay.
showing for reference where it is to show you it's gonna move from that position to another position.
Right, from Steve Ballas's property to both of their
For
properties.
a
Okay,
common use.
got
Right.
that clear, thank you. on Muskegon, how do you access it? Would you just point again? Because you didn't put in how you access it from that property that has no house.
From Miss, oh, well, the plan would be, you're all aware that there's a pending case on this property. Assuming someday, and I can't predict, if there were a home built there, you generally allow a 4-foot wide path from a home to the water. So there would be a 4-foot path from that home to the bulkhead walkway. And Mr. Cacciadorian could make access down from his property. And Mr. Bayless, who already has access, would go from his property.
Right, Mr. Ballas's was easy to understand.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I guess I'm out of the loop. I don't know if there's any issues with the property, so.
I think it's under appeal.
We had it.
Oh, okay, I must have been absent. Bad girl. Then the last question is, you don't have float storage shown on this.
I think I described, it'll be, if I don't describe, I'm going to tell you right now, and I'll write a letter, that the float and ramp will be hauled and stored off-site.
Yeah, just not even on their
Not even on
property.
this land, in an off-site location.
Well,
at a boat.
because that's part of Chapter 91, you have to show where it's going to be stored or taken.
Well, you have a regulation that says if it's
Oh,
to be
yeah.
stored on the property to designate where it will be.
Where it'd be.
And-
Okay,
And
so you
we're not doing it on our property, we're doing it at an off-site storage place.
And then the very last question, which really, I guess, doesn't have anything to do with us, but I'm just curious. By moving this so far out, everybody else's docks are all against, floats are all against the wall. And by this one going the way it is right now, the two interior ones, which I guess is 86 and 78, it's really gonna be a navigational issue, so.
It'll be cozy, and those floats, to our knowledge, have no licenses, so I don't know that you need to even be discussing those.
Okay. Well, yours is gonna be the only one with a piling, right?
Right.
A permanent pile that's gonna be in the water.
And there is a letter from,
Yeah, Greg, I read that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, that's all.
All right, thank you. Kevin?
I'm still wondering, I recognize we're only talking about this one gentleman. Do you have any idea if anything else down there is permitted?
We looked on the Registry of Deeds website for any recorded documents for these lighter colored ones that I showed to distinguish it, and I couldn't find anything on record.
I can answer that, Kevin.
Huh?
I can answer part of that question for you.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, may I, Mike?
Yes, of course.
A few of the butters came into the office the other day expressing concerns from a navigational sense, and I understand those concerns. I did ask the abutters to provide any documentation regarding the floats on, specifically on lot 78 and
86.
86. Lot 78 did provide documentation that this board had approved the floats on that lot under an RDA back in 2012. But they are not, there's no Chapter 91 license for them. There's a Chapter 91 license for the bulkhead, but no Chapter 91 license for the floats. So I advised the homeowner of lot 78 to license those floats since they are approved by this board. The lot owners at 86 gave me what they could find, but it doesn't, it's not in regards to the floats, so they would need to work with me to permit the floats and or license. That's the information I have.
That's it.
Yes, Mike, you're gonna have to leave that plan with us because of the open meeting laws. You can't just, you're gonna have to leave that exact one with us. If you can unclip it, or is it painted or plastered to your
It's
board?
just taped on. I mean, it's.
Taped on?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can-
if you could just leave that for the record, that would be
And
fine.
fold it nicely, that'll fit in here.
Just like that.
I
Just like this
did,
one.
I did talk to the harbor master after the residents' concerns regarding navigation, because it is gonna be tight in there. And the harbor master basically said it won't impede navigation in a navigational channel. That was the response.
Yes, it'll be tight.
Yes, it will be tight.
Some of the marines
And I
are-
wasn't able to connect with the zoning board administrator regarding Cachadorian's lot. So, that's the information I have.
Well, I'm just concerned that it's now going to be a common dock for a property that has no house. And I remember back in the day, we never allowed docks without a structure on the
I
property.
think that's why it is a common dock.
Well, yeah, it's sort of the opposite. You could never propose a dock for a single-family residential lot if it didn't have a house. It basically said you can't have an accessory structure, which a dock
Yeah.
is, without a primary structure,
Correct.
which is the house, unless it's a common dock. So that's the only way you can do it.
Is that?
I think
I'm
so.
going to make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second,
Great, anything else from the board? Anything from the public on this application? All right, all those.
Oh, wait, wait.
Oh, I'm
No,
sorry,
there's-
I'm sorry,
there's-
come on.
there
That
are
gentleman
people
looks like
that
he's
want
ready to talk.
My name's Tony Penkis. I live at 5 Connecticut Drive in East Falmouth. I'm one of the abutters. The first thing is, the map Mike provided is really not accurate depicting our property and the docks we have that have been approved by the board in 2012. We have both of these docks
Sir,
allowed.
excuse me, I'm sorry. Could
Yeah.
you take the microphone out of there and use it? It's for the TV audience. Thank you.
Okay, like I said, the map doesn't accurately depict our property and docks that were approved by the board in 2012. Our property line comes to this second dock over here, and that's the first thing. And second, you know, we've talked bumper pool, cozy, tight navigational. There's pictures on file we submitted last year, when the dock went up before the board. And it's not even close to that. When all the boats are in, you can't move. If you try to turn around and navigate with just a slight amount of wind, there's no room for error. And if you're by yourself coming in and out, you can't safely dock your boat. And this waterway is only 66 feet wide. So if, as an example, our docks are over here. You come on 4 feet with the dock, a foot for the bumper, an 8-foot draft on the boat, which is small. Beam, sorry, thank you, beam. I don't see how I could get in with that small of a boat, because they're not proposing, you know, what size boat they're gonna put in. Currently in the canal, there's a 40-foot boat in there. You have that beam attached to this dock. This dock and part of this dock are essentially useless. And I don't know what to say. I would suggest, if they could look at pictures that we provided before, to take a real look at it, or if possible, you know, mid-May, if this could be postponed, and to see the boats in there, get on one of our boats and try to see how we would be able to maneuver around with this dock in place. I find it nearly impossible. We've been there since 1975. We know the waterway in this area better than Mike, the harbor master, and a lot of other people. I know the harbor master's experienced using a boat, but it's not as easy as this picture depicts. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chairman, I'm sending down the pictures that he referenced,
All
and
right.
for the record,
Correct me if I'm wrong, I may be, but it seems to me that this question isn't per se under our jurisdiction, but we do have a regulation concerning docks being 10 feet from the projected property line. Is that correct?
it's 10 or 25?
But the proposed dock, if that's the
10?
case, doesn't appear to be the one that would have a problem. It seems like the existing docks would have that problem.
Well, I'm sympathetic to the abutters' concerns, but I think my applicants have equal right to the waterfront, and they're trying to do the right thing to coexist as best they can. I don't,
10 feet,
Right.
we're
Madam
doing the
Chairman.
best we can.
And I would also say that there are some marinas in town that are equally difficult to get in and out of,
In the middle, yeah.
and people pay to use them. But my main concern is I don't believe that this is a question for us to resolve, is it, Jen? I mean, we need Greg's, the harbor master's, concurrence in the plan, but apparently we have that. Betsy?
I think that picture, do you know, have you seen this picture? I think that picture is worth 1,000 words. I don't understand why each of these people here can't have a dock this way, and then people can get in and out.
Because there's no structure here, so he couldn't have it.
Well, then he can't have a dock till he has a structure.
That's not the proposal, but
With all due respect, we're talking about a situation that, about a dock that doesn't have standing in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, in conflict with someone who's attempting to properly permit a flow. And I haven't seen the picture, but I can, and I wish my client was here tonight so he could firsthand describe the situation. But this is based on the co-applicants in my interviews and discussions with them, the most efficient way to orient the flow for everyone to have an equal, fair access to the waterfront. I don't know what else I can say.
Well, these people have a permitted dock through us. Yes, they do. They have an RDA.
They don't have a Chapter 91 license.
Well, your dock doesn't have
Mike,
to.
you've come in multiple times with docks that didn't have Chapter 91 licenses.
So we're advancing a plan, and we're intending to go apply for a Chapter 91 license.
Kevin,
Just as a comment to all of you guys, if you're going to allow, I mean, the photographs look great. I mean, I openly admit I'm not a boater, but maybe you could live with that. But when I went down to see the place, there was something considerably larger than those little outboards. And if you're going to start putting, allowing them to go up and down that little place, I think you've got bigger problems.
We show on the plan what you require us to, called a mooring field. And they're modest-sized boats that we're proposing, your typical center console style boat with an 8-foot beam, 20 to 24-foot length. My experience, I boat, I'm a boater, I disagree. I think that modest boats can coexist. If someone decides to get a boat that's too big, which my clients are not proposing, it's a self-imposed hardship. And each property, when the development was laid out, had a right to the waterfront, and we're exercising our right to apply for permits. Your harbor master has already commented, and I think we're doing the best to coexist, and we're taking all the steps to do things with proper permits.
Peter.
I don't see in the proposed project description the maximum length or beam proposed to be on the dock. Normally, we have some conditions and so forth, but you don't appear to have what you said, the 20-foot and the 8-foot beam, and there is a 40-foot boat floating around. Could you clarify that?
I would have to, I can tell you this, my expectation with my interviews with my client was that the boats that we're proposing to tie here are common recreational sized boats, which vary in length from anywhere from 16 to 24 or 5 feet. Your typical center console Boston whaler type boats. I can't tell you the specifics of what boats they're going to tie here. If you'd like me to continue the hearing so I can give you that information, it's not a requirement of the submittal. It's a requirement to show a mooring field, and that mooring field approximates the size of the boat that I'm describing. It's slightly bigger than the boat would be. So the boats are recreational size. They're not proposing any large sport fishing boats to be here. That I know.
Madam Chairman, I have a question. Mike, did you just say both owners already own a boat?
I don't know that they do. I don't know. I know that in my discussions, they led me to believe they want to be able to tie like a modest 20 to 24 foot type center console boat there. I'd
There are
have to
some
get
big 24-foot center consoles out there.
Well, they're as big as 24 feet.
But what beam?
They average 8 to 8 feet, maybe 9.
Maybe bigger. Just so the board knows, your design specifications and performance standards for common docks. Docks shall not exceed the following: over 100 feet in length beyond mean high tide, over 100 feet in length beyond the landward edge of the salt marsh, and the proposed dock and pier shall not otherwise prohibit or unreasonably impede legitimate passage along the beach or through navigation over waters for recreational or aquacultural purposes. So, if the harbor master were to comment that, in his opinion, that the case would be stronger, but it's your determination based on the evidence provided to you.
Well, I guess we have information to make a decision. We have to just think about what the decision is going to be when we discuss it.
Madam Chairman, since I'm going to relinquish the plan with the water depths if you'd like, but there also seems to be maybe some data that might help you make the decision as it relates to the boat specifications. Maybe it would be better for me to continue the hearing so I can write a letter about the size boats that are proposed, and I could also take that as the opportunity to give you plans instead of just this one plan with the water depths.
Well, you're certainly entitled to ask for continuance. If you want to do that.
I guess I'll say it a different way. Do you have adequate information to close the hearing and vote favorably for the applicant, or do you think you need more information?
That's a loaded question.
We can't really say how we're going to vote.
Well, then it's prudent for me to
I
try to
understand
give
what's
you more
prudent, but,
information.
we can't do that.
Mike,
Yes, of course.
go on.
So Mike, if you write to your client and your client says, I'm going to have a 22-foot whaler there, you give us that information, are we going to restrict the dock? Are we going to put that in our conditions?
Well, yeah, you could conceivably. Other towns condition boat sizes, horsepower, even other towns. You can condition anything you want. There's nothing prohibiting you from doing that.
So that then this land is sold to somebody else who has a different boat. They're going to have to come back and get an amendment or a new NOI?
Sounds like it.
Or you could limit the maximum size to something that would exceed what most people would, ever expect to have, and that's the limit.
Well,
mean, we're
we just
talking-
We may
heard
not
that,
want
we
the
just
limit
heard that
that
there's a
high,
40-foot
though.
boat there, so,
Yeah, but we're also talking about 40-foot boats tied to unlicensed or unpermitted structures. I haven't seen any documentation that, I mean, just because they happen to have an oversized boat in the channel prohibits others from having rights to their waterfront.
Madam Chairman, I just have a couple of comments.
Sure.
And I'm with Betsy on this one, Mike. First of all, I'm just going to give you a hard time here. I can remember multiple times where you told this commission they couldn't regulate the size of a boat, so I'm just going to throw that out there. I'm just, you know,
I think I
saying.
said that.
But
I
anyway.
can remember that too, Mike.
That's why I'm over here chuckling. And second, I mean, you can continue the hearing, that's absolutely your prerogative to give us vote information, but I'm a little leery to accept that. Multiple times we've heard that properties were going to be used for retirement homes, or, you know, something was going to be done like this, and as soon as the permit is granted, you know, there's a 180, and either the property goes for sale, a bigger boat comes on. So, I mean, you're absolutely well within your right to talk to your clients and have them agree to some sort of restriction on the size. That's fine. I would be a bit cautious with this board to take that as
Well,
gospel.
my reaction to that is, I think that in general, we try to avoid accommodating these kind of personal
Yeah,
circumstance requests, because the orders we issue go with the property, and the
Yeah.
property changes hands, so it's
And then
not
there's a
going to
restriction.
necessarily be suitable to the circumstances down the road. So I think a better path for us, if we want to set a limit on the boat
Yeah.
size here, we should just put it in an order of conditions and not really consider
What these people.
what these people want to do or may do, or people in the future may do. We're going to tell them what they can do.
yeah, oh, absolutely, I agree with you, Madam
The only reason I
Chairman.
raised the question, Madam Chairman, is because Commissioner Walsh asked as though it were information that were lacking, and I wanted to provide it, and I don't
No,
want...
that's fine.
That
And I
happens
didn't
all the
want you
time.
to
That's-
speculate and render a decision speculating that we may try to get a 40-footer in here, because that's not the plan.
Okay, I appreciate that, and this goes through my head every time we get into discussions of docks and boats, because I really don't think that we should be talking about individual boats, for the reasons I said.
I just stand by what your harbor master said.
But I appreciate that you were asked the question.
But again, the harbor master, Mike, warranted his comments because of, you know, this isn't a navigational channel that he, you know, maintains up.
Right, it's
So.
not an area for navigation, it's an endpoint.
Yeah, he doesn't patrol it, I guess is the way to say it, for navigation. It's
Yeah,
a private
yeah.
navigational area.
It's up to you, Mike, if you want to request a continuance,
Well,
that's fine.
seems like
Just-
you
We
don't-
Let
have,
us
we have
know.
another person who'd like to comment.
Sure.
You could make the request first or
Well, it
wait.
seems like you don't
So now he's
want
proposing a
information.
float?
No, I mean, you can provide it, Mike, it's
Would you
really
like
up
to
to
hear
you
what
if you think
The
it's
next
going to be
person has to
helpful.
say before you decide.
Depends if he's for or against it.
I have one more. What's going up, is that okay?
Well, I was going to recognize him next, so go right ahead. You can speak after he does. Please go to the podium.
Thank you. My name is Frank Mendolis. I live at 14 Tashmore Drive. I'm at the first house as you come in where the channel starts. My wife and I came down here 13 years ago. We used to live in Norwood. We had a house in Falmouth. We decided we wanted to live in Falmouth. It's a beautiful town, like probably everyone else here. And when we first got here, there was an older woman that lived in Mr. Bayless's house right now. She, age had gotten the better of her. All the animals and the ducks would march up, and she'd have the food for them, and they'd march back down. Her house got into disarray, and she passed away in the house. But to my understanding, when this was built, the back end of this canal, there was 2 slips, no dockage, no dockage at all. And it seemed to work. When I was living there, when we were living there, when the woman was there was no boat issue because she was well past that. But that just seems to make common sense. It used to be 1 lot. They owned the whole back. When Mr. Bayless bought it, they cut the lot in half for the estate to get as much capital as they could. So now we've got an issue. And I don't know, I know Roger Augusta, who built the house, and Richard Iapini and Tony, who was the very first house there. It was so simple. I don't know why we're muddling up the waters here. Steve and whoever's buying the other house has got room to do that. No dockage, just throw a couple of bumpers out there. End of story. I don't know. It's the way it was laid out. Does that make sense to the board?
In terms of our regulations, it doesn't really fit the picture. It's not something we would, a factor that we would rule on.
Okay.
It sounds to me more of a zoning issue or a waterways issue.
I think that was in the original charter when they put this together. I'm not sure of it.
You mean for the community? So it would be a matter of the deed, perhaps?
Yes, that's
Well,
what I believe.
If that's so, we do take deeded rights into account, but we have to be presented with the evidence.
Because last year at this time, we went through this, and then Mr. Baylor sent the letter, I've withdrawn, I'm going to get rid of the dock, and I'm just going to maintain the bulkhead in front of my property. Perfect. Now we get this letter, here we go again. So I don't know, that's what I have to say. Thanks for listening.
Joys of private property ownership.
Madam Chairman, to speak with that, removing the dock, what I think the gentleman's saying is removing the dock does not remove the ability for the properties to access water or still
Right.
boat there. They could still tie a boat up to the actual bulkhead.
Right.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
6 years ago, when we started the permit process for our dock, when we came in, kind of the first thing we were told is, you can't have a T-dock in that area. The area is too narrow. What's being proposed...
And, excuse me, who told you that? The harbor master or?
No. When I applied for the application and, met with the people downstairs, that's what they told me right up front.
With this board?
I wasn't with the board, it was downstairs when I was
Probably Mark.
inquiring
Probably
about
Mark.
an application process and how to go forward.
Was it a gentleman?
In the conservation office?
Yeah,
Yes,
they would have had
conservation
to.
All right,
office
that's what I was trying to get
Yes,
at.
and where it was narrow, everybody had to be parallel to the bulkhead. What's being proposed is essentially a T-dock, using the back of the bulkhead and coming out, creating the T. And if I wasn't allowed to have that opportunity over here at any one point, I don't see why Mr. Ballas and Mr. Cacciatorian would be offered that benefit. The only other thing I have to say is I've listened, I've attended a lot of meetings, I've seen a lot on TV, and sometimes the board says, just because you have a piece of property on the water does not entitle you to a dock. Heard it many a times. And what Ms. Dindula says, it's relatively correct. Because for about 30 years, we didn't have any docks. We tied a couple big bumpers, just buy them at West Marine. We tied them up the bulkhead, and that's how we used our boat. And when my parents became elderly, it was too difficult for them to just come off the bulkhead onto the boat. So that's why we applied for the applications for the docks, so they could easily access the boat, so I can bring them for a ride here and there. Thank you again for your time, and have a good evening.
All right, thank you.
think we all know this isn't a T. Would we agree to that? Yeah, because a T would be out here. This is a straight dock. You prefer Ts in most cases. This is a very special case. That's why it's not a T. If these floats weren't here, there'd be more room. They don't have licenses. If there's a boat tied here, I don't know what size this boat is, I don't know what size the beam is, but it's probably at least 8 feet. 4 plus 8 is 12 off the bulkhead. So now there's 12 feet of the frontage of Mr. Cacciatorian occupied. These are 8 feet wide, these floats. 8 plus 8, and it's at least 8 on a beam of a boat, is 16. So when there's a boat here, there's 16 feet of Mr. Bayless's property that's occupied by this gentleman. When he ties his boat here, and he tried to tie a boat here, when there's 2 boats here, it doesn't work. This works better. That's what I was told. That's what we're proposing. There was a lot of talk that I'm not prepared to answer, and my client isn't here. I want my client to be able to defend and justify his position, not have you rely on me trying to describe what he described to me. So I want to continue until May 16th available so my client can be here. But that's my understanding, what I just described to you. We're trying to coexist and make it equitable for all for waterfront property owners.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
I just have one more comment.
Please make it from up there.
Yes, I have another comment from what Mike said. Like I said, our 2 docks were approved by the town 6 years ago. And in the application, we had stated exactly where they were going. And we hadn't purchased the docks, we had the engineered plans. Someone from conservation came down, viewed the property. Came in, we put the docks exactly where we said we were. So many feet off this back wall, a space, so many feet here. And we're about 2 feet from our property, and like I said, this map, and they used the same map last year or something similar, is inaccurate. So if they do an updated plan, because can they please have an accurate map for the record? And to say we're taking away land, it was approved that we could have our dock that far away. And we're not taking this property away. Like we said, we tied off on bumpers for the longest time. There are rooms for the 2 boats in where my pros and their clients are looking from a 20 to 24, 25-foot boat with bumpers off. There's plenty of room for everybody to move around. It doesn't become a safety issue, and we didn't take anybody's right away. Something was approved by this board to have it there. So that's a huge difference, and I don't know what else to say. My dad, myself, my mom, we tried to do everything the right way, and we felt we did. And it seems now we're being penalized for someone coming in. Mr. Cacciatorian came in about 1.5 years, 2 years ago to buy the property. Everything was laid out in front. You know, docks, where boats were, and no one had a gun to his head saying, you gotta buy this property, and you've gotta do this and that. In business, some deals, some of the best deals are the deals you walk away from. And maybe you shouldn't look to buy the property, develop it. Maybe you should have went for another piece of property on the water. But to say we're taking something away from him is not an accurate statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen, do you have any comment on the accuracy of the plan?
Not right now, but I'll go look at it out in the field again.
Okay.
I can
thanks.
tell you about the accuracy. The floats were located by an instrument survey by a registered land surveyor. They were survey located. Perhaps this property, maybe Mr. Panickis owns another lot, and maybe the lot line's over here. Where the lot line is doesn't matter. Where the floats are that were measured matters. And I didn't mean to characterize it as he was taking our land. I meant to characterize it as we're all trying to coexist and use the water frontage that each lot has. I've never seen this board approve a dock under an RDA unless it was an effort, a pre-existing dock that was demonstrated to you existed prior to 1979, which I've done several times. I've filed RDAs for pre-existing docks that existed prior to 79 as the first step in attempting to get a Chapter 91 license. There is no Chapter 91 license. We're talking about permits and rights for a dock that doesn't really have all the permits that it's supposed to have. And the one on the south side, I have no knowledge of any permits. So we're not trying to be difficult, we're trying to coexist. So I'm gonna ask for a continuance. So maybe in the interim, my client will shed more light on it for you or talk to his neighbors.
Okay.
Okay, Mike.
Betsy?
So we've just spent 40 minutes talking about things that really are not under the Conservation Commission purview. This has nothing to do, our job is to protect the environment, and none of what we've talked about has to do with that. But actually, Sam Patterson's here, who's one of our selectmen, and the next thing, whatever we decide, it goes to the selectmen. And these kinds of discussions, isn't that right, Sam?
Welcome to us.
It will come to you. But that's part of why it goes to the selectmen, for these kinds of issues. I just want you to know that.
You have another place to voice your concerns.
I mean, I understand your client's position, and I understand your concern, especially if you've lived in an area for a long time. And like I say, tells 1,000 words. It's a small area. And I don't like to back up in a car, and I probably wouldn't like to back up in a boat either, but it's what you do. So you're gonna continue it?
I'm asking for May 16th, please.
Madam Chairman, is that okay with you?
That's okay with me.
Okay.
At the request of the applicant, we can, do we have to
So
withdraw
I
our
withdraw,
close?
we withdraw
Yeah.
the first.
Yeah.
Okay.
You
Okay.
made the motion,
Okay, now you make one.
and I withdraw my second. Now we're going to make a motion to continue it to May 16th.
And I'll second it.
All right. Anything else from the board? Anything else from the public? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved.
Can you put that in that main file,
Oh, I'm
please?
sorry, I thought it was yours.
And,
Thank
no,
you again.
that
Where,
doesn't,
where's this gonna go?
Thank you.
put those
Those in the
in that file, it's fine.
Where does this go?
I need this.
Okay, it's okay, guys. Okay, watch this.
I got it.
Thank you.
These go in this file,
Which one?
this one, and I will copy them and put them back to her since I presented them to you. Mike, I need that plan. Oh, yeah, that's right, I'm sorry. Can you submit, like, new plans with your soundings and everything? Great, thank you.
All right, moving ahead on the agenda, our next request for a hearing under a notice of intent is for Scott Carmel, 50 Bayview Avenue, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to raise RAZE and reconstruct an existing single-family dwelling, construct a pool and landscaping walls, install a new Title V sewage disposal system, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. It's Mike night.
Madam Chairman, members of the commission, Michael Borselli again from Falmouth Engineering, representing the applicant, Scott Carmel. Mr. Carmel is proposing to redevelop the property at number 50 Bayview Avenue. Bayview Avenue is on the corner of Bayview Avenue and Indian. The plans that you have in your package also include an existing conditions plan that shows the house, existing house today and its appurtenances. This plan shows it highlighted in red for reference. The applicant's proposing to raise and reconstruct the house such that it'll conform to FEMA standards for construction within flood zones. It'll conform to Title V in the Town of Falmouth health regulations for proper placement of a septic system. And it has been designed to conform with the Falmouth wetland regulations and the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act regulations to work within jurisdiction of Wetland Resources. This project's within a buffer to a dune as designated by Mass GIS. Jen and I met and discussed the boundary of the dune, and we've shown it on the plan. It is the most landward resource area that would have a no disturbance zone A or outer buffer zone B associated with it. The other wetland resource, of course, is land subject to coastal storm flowage. The property has a boundary that crosses through it, AE 12 and AE 13. So the house has been designed to conform with AE 13, the higher base flood elevation. The first floor is elevated at more than 1 foot above 13. The first floor is proposed to be 14.25. The associated no disturbance zone A to the dune is shown here. It's pretty much, most of it is in Vineyard Street. And then the adjacent outer buffer zone B is shown here. A portion of the existing house is in outer buffer zone B, and a portion of the new house is in outer buffer zone B. There's an increase in impervious surface because of the new house, because the new house is larger. And the summary of the calculations is on the plan. The net result is there's a requirement for 302 square feet of mitigation planting. And we're proposing 440. Unfortunately, the property's on the other side of the street from the dune, so we can't plant it up against and adjacent to the existing resource area buffer. So we're showing it as close to the resource area as we can, which is right along the frontage of the property. We're proposing 1 eastern red cedar. There's no trees proposed to be cut in the no disturbance zone A, which is logical since it's out on the street. And I don't even think there's any proposed in the outer buffer zone. There are no trees proposed to be cut in either within 100 feet of it. The septic system is proposed to be as far as possible away from the wetland resources. The existing system is in this location, and it'll be pumped and removed from site. There's a small pool proposed adjacent to the backyard, shown here. We're proposing a limit of work right at the property line along Vineyard Street. We're proposing dry wells for roof runoff. The driveway access is off of Bayview Avenue. And that sums it up. I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I did meet with Mike out there. And so I am perfectly comfortable with the boundaries. So thank you, Mike, for calling me out there. The only two concerns I have, Mike, are that the oak trees bordering the property. The 14-inch, the 14-inch, the 16-inch, yep, 14-inch right there, 16-inch right next to that patio and pool, and then the 16-inch oak that is near your septic system. They are going to be impacted.
Yeah.
They are going to be impacted, so how are you going to address that?
Yeah, the buildings are removed, but they're outside the buffer zone, so we think we're allowed to remove those, and there's no required mitigation for it.
Okay, now they're going to be removed.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, we didn't specify them to be removed because they're outside 100 feet from the dune, but it's pretty likely.
It's still into land subject to coastal storm flood, so I'm just pointing that out so the board can have a discussion about that.
Sure.
But other than that, I don't have any more comments, Madam Chairman. It's fairly straightforward, except for the trees.
Thanks, Jen. Kevin,
I think I'll let some others talk about the oak trees. Other than that, doesn't seem to be any issue.
okay, Maury, you'd be
Mike,
the person.
the
for that.
24-inch oak on the property line is going to stay?
Where is it?
Up by where it says lot 27?
Over here?
Yep.
That should be able to stay.
It should be able to stay.
Well, it'll be your only tree left on the lot.
Well, it
it's-
Well,
certainly
they're adding
can.
one.
Well, they're not adding an oak, they're adding a
It could be a
cedar.
condition that shall remain.
Okay, and then the next question, it is land subject to storm flowage, so it is still in our jurisdiction.
Yeah.
And since you're taking pretty much every oak tree down, but you're gonna replace it with one cedar tree, I would wonder, and the only reason I'm concerned, I'm a big cedar fan, but the cedar tree will block the view, and we know what happens when they block the view, then they disappear. So they're evergreen, so I'm just, if you're gonna give us a tree, you might wanna think about what tree you're gonna give us. The applicant might not be as happy to have a big cedar tree in their view. The other thing is the 20-inch oak, and these are beautiful trees. They're healthy, beautiful trees, which is very rare. The 20-inch oak in the driveway layout,
Yeah.
can't you move that driveway to save the 20-inch oak? I mean, you might want to talk about this with your clients. I mean, they're shade trees. They're beautiful, and then they can go pay a landscaper to put in twigs for, $4,000 for a transplant, when they already have beautiful established trees.
I can talk to him about that. I'm happy to
Because the
talk to him.
driveway doesn't even go into the
driveway
garage.
doesn't go into the garage.
Yeah, well, it's off
Well, it
kilter.
goes,
It's off
it's
kilter.
huge. This is a huge
Well,
driveway.
there's driveway
It
going to
goes
the
all the way.
garage, and then there's,
Double
get
extra
guest
parking.
Extra parking.
So, but I think we could probably adjust that.
It was just something to talk
I'm
with your
happy to
client.
continue the hearing to talk about those things because time isn't as of the essence on this.
All right, and then
So, I
the-
get that. And maybe, before I forget, can I
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
about the cedar? So, I understand what you're saying about views. The actual view really is like this, if you look at the view. There-
Yeah.
Of course, there's a view that way, and
Yeah.
I understand
Well, it's
that.
beautiful everywhere.
Yeah, so, I mean, we can consider a different type of tree or maybe a few more trees in places.
Well, it's just a tough spot there. It gets
Right.
really beaten, and, if you notice, there were no cedars around.
I mean, if we're cutting
Long.
trees in the flood zone and not in the resource area buffer, I suppose we could propose some,
That's what I was thinking, back in
Yeah.
that corner.
and try to save this 20-inch oak and,
Yeah.
and that 24, and adjust the driveway.
Yeah, it just something to talk with your client. You don't show AC units or shower stalls or things like that. Are you going to have them?
Oh, you took Jamie's question.
Oh, I
Raise the
revised- I
station.
revised
Oh,
the
sorry,
plan.
Jamie. No shower tower, rinse station, I don't know.
I did revise the plan,
Oh, did I not
Of
get
course
it?
it did.
and I haven't submitted one to you yet, but,
Oh.
because it was more than a week, less than a week prior to.
Okay.
So I show them on my plan, which is outside the resource area buffer, but in a flood zone, so,
You have to start sharing your plans with us.
Yeah,
well, I always like to
this
keep
foot in the door approach, I
a few
don't know.
things secret, so I can.
Yeah.
No,
You just
Mike,
want
that
us
is
to ask
not
questions.
acceptable. This board has said multiple times, do not
I'm
present,
joking.
I know.
These are in a flood zone, they're not within the buffer.
It doesn't matter, it's still their jurisdiction, Mike.
All right, top of wall.
I don't find it funny.
Top of the
I don't
Top
find it
wall.
funny either to be patronized.
Well, you know what, you've been
The top
told
of the
multiple
patio is
times not to put a
elevation.
revised plan on the floor without this board knowing about
Madam
it.
Chairman, can this go through you and not through a sidebar?
Yes,
Thank you.
go ahead, Mike.
Top of wall.
Did you have more you wanted to say?
Yeah, I asked him a question, top of wall.
I couldn't hear it, so I'll try to
Yeah, you
answer.
did, you said, you had talked about the patio, I wanted to know the wall.
The The top of wall is elevation 10.5. It's
Okay.
about a 2-foot tall maximum landscape
Okay,
wall.
and where is the chain link fence going for the pool? I don't see that on the plan.
There's no chain link fence for the pool.
What is gonna be around the pool? Oh, is there some kind
It's
of,
gonna be, it's superimposed on the wall, so you can't see it. So it'll be on the patio boundary.
but what is it?
What is it?
Yeah,
It's gonna, I don't know the material.
but it's gonna be a fence, that's all
Yes.
on top of the wall?
Yes,
Okay, I got that, but you don't have it shown anywhere on the plan?
right.
Okay.
Is that necessary to show on the plan?
I think you
Yeah,
should,
we usually,
I mean, it's not a requirement of ours, but it's a requirement of the plan, of the project, so.
and then the last thing, you're not gonna need a path through that buffer area? The mitigation?
No.
Okay, because at the narrowest point, it is only 2 feet, which is this much, so I don't know how I know the street is much wider, much narrower physically right now than its layout. Am I
Well,
correct?
most access is gonna be off this way and down, or they can go
Okay.
this way. I mean, we can do this in a different shape if you think. We're open to recommendations.
Well, it's just only that
I
wide,
know.
yeah.
I don't have anywhere else to put it. I mean, I could cluster it in the corner if you'd rather. I'm happy to take your input. I could
Right.
put 2
We'll
small
we'll
clusters.
deliberate on that, how's that? Yeah. I'd rather have a cluster. Go ahead, I'm all done, thank you.
Okay. Betsy?
Nope, I have no questions, thanks.
Jamie?
Nothing to add.
Steve?
Nothing more to add, thank you.
Peter?
Nothing.
Mark? All right.
Who wants to continue?
Yes, and you just, you want a continuance?
What date do you want, Mike?
If the 16th is available, I don't know what it is.
Madam Chairman?
What are we looking for?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of people
Okay.
for the quorum.
16th of what?
May.
At the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue this to the 16th of May.
Before you vote, I just want to make sure I have my punch list. Consider saving a couple of the trees we talked about by shifting the driveway, and make sure you have the AC generator, full fence that's on the patio, and you prefer a cluster of the landscaping instead of a narrow strip.
I would.
I didn't hear the thing you said before that, something about the patio.
The
Oh, I'm
fence.
sorry,
The fence,
Fence on
okay.
top of the
Yep,
patio.
yep.
Pool fence.
That sounds right
Unless
to
there's
me.
something else, I think that's what I heard.
Yes, I think so. All right. So anything else from the board? Anything from the
Chairman.
public
I
on
seconded
this?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Come on.
Good evening. Thank you. So my name is Robert Cork, and we live right here. Okay. And so it's been in the family for 60-plus years.
Which?
Our house. So I live at 31 Vineyard. Okay, so our property line is right here. So we go on the next block over here. And I would love to meet your client, because I would like to have a conversation with him, because I'd like to bring him to my home. And I'd like to bring him into our sunroom, which we have, obviously have had there many years, and let him see what he's proposing. So he's proposing basically to block our view.
This is another issue that we don't have any
I understand,
jurisdiction.
okay, but you folks do have the authority in this part called the buffer zone B, correct?
It's under our
And
jurisdiction.
isn't it your jurisdiction to minimize people in that zone? I'm asking, I can't say I know, but it's in your jurisdiction.
It's in our jurisdiction. There are some rules that apply, but
Okay,
minimizing is not really
okay. So
part
I
of
did-
the regulations.
All right, I totally understand conservation. So they're taking all the trees out. They've been there forever. They're taking this spot, it's gonna be 13.7 from our boundary. I mean, they're basically putting the house right on top of us. And these beautiful trees, which are gone. So I would ask Scott, would be, well, why can't we push this a little left and a little back? I mean, why wreck our view, and you still have your plot plan, and you still have the home you want? I know it's 25 feet, but I believe he can go a little this way, and he can go a little back, and now this sits here. But, okay, where's he gonna put his generator? Where's he, that thing cranks on. That's one of the most annoying things if you ever had one next to your house. Okay. Okay, this is gonna be how far above the ground?
About 2 feet.
About 2 feet. And is that a lap pool, or is that a pool?
Yes, go ahead.
Because I don't know what it is. I mean, it's 20 by, I don't know, what's the size, what is it?
It's 12 by 24, so I would be very short laps if it were a lap pool.
I didn't know it was one of
12
the,
by 24.
I didn't know it was one of those type of pools you turn on and it produces a wave and you swim, But I mean, could we shift it back a little bit? I mean, I'd love to speak to your client. I'd love to bring him over. I mean, I don't know who he is. We've been here for 60-plus years.
I'm going to give Mike a chance to address that, but one thing that is happening that's of interest to us is that the new septic system is being moved further away from the resources,
Right.
and I believe that the house has to maintain a certain distance from that.
Well, I believe it can go back further. I believe the home can be shifted back a little bit. And I believe it could probably shift a little bit to the left, and you would accomplish what you want, and it would take you out of this zone B more, so you're lessening the impact of this zone, which I think is a good thing. And if you do that, maybe you can keep the tree. Putting this tree here, if you said at our house, you're like, you gotta be kidding me. So, I mean, if you're gonna put the tree, put it somewhere over there. Why would you want to wreck the view? And this tree, I mean, they're beautiful trees. And it would give us a little more privacy, and Scott. I mean, we're literally going to be, on top of each other. And so I'm just asking if you could consider just shifting it back and over a little bit. I don't think it will affect anyone. And I think it would be a good thing to do for a neighbor. And you're coming out of the zone more.
Would you like to address that, Mike? Go right ahead.
I wasn't ignoring you. I can't talk when you of this. I will speak to my client. I just hope that Mr. Quirk realizes, do you understand, through you, Madam Chairman, where the existing house is relative to the new house? We're putting it right on top of the, so if there's a view issue, it's already there, because we're not projecting further in front of the house. So just making that point. That being said,
Perhaps raising it is.
if there's an opportunity to shift the house back slightly, I will talk to my client about trying to be neighborly about it and do the best he can. So I can't commit to that tonight, but I'm asking for a continuance for other reasons. I will talk to him at that, between now and the continued hearing.
All right.
Madam Chairman, I have
Yes.
one question for Mike, if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind.
Mike, just for clarification, I'm not going to snap at you again. Bay Road is your, what do they call it in zoning?
The front yard,
Front yard. So what is a back setback on a back lot line?
10 feet.
It is 10 feet, okay. It's 20, is it 25 from the front and 10 from the back, or, right?
It's 25 from front, 10 from back and side.
10 from back and
Rear
side?
and side,
Rear
yes.
and side, okay.
Well, you can designate one as a front and one as a side. But to shift this way, we have to think in terms of providing adequate setback for the septic system to the property line, which also has a 10-foot setback. But we can, I don't want to design this on the fly here.
Right.
I'm
No, you
listening,
can't do
and I
that.
will see what my client wants to do and do my best to try to work with and be neighborly.
It's true that the existing structure is here, but it's a ranch, and it's an open porch. So I'm assuming that corner is going to be a second floor to it. So it's a wall. Yeah, I mean, again, I would love to have you come over and look, see what we can work out. That's all I'm asking. Just to be fair, that's all.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
He doesn't understand that thing's going.
All right, is there anything else? Okay, so let's take a vote. All those in favor of continuing until May 6th, say aye.
Aye.
16th.
16.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This one?
Yeah.
All right.
Betsy Amore, answer my question.
Next, we have a continued, more than one, request for a hearing under a notice of intent. First, Peter Conway, 181 T-Ticket Path, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to raise RACE existing deck and construct a larger deck with a roof, remove brick walking steps, remove stone patios, install new foundation wall, dry walls, wells, utilities, remove cut trees, install native mitigation tree and shrub plantings, invasive plant management, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Could we please have less conversation? Thank you.
What was that, May 16th?
Madam Chairman, again, Michael Borselli, Falmouth Engineering. I represent the applicant, Peter Conway. I'm joined tonight by Teresa Sprague, who did a land management and planting plan that was submitted as part of the application. In addition, Mr. Conway's here in the back. These are, if there's any specific questions to address to him. The property at 181 T-Ticket Path currently has an existing single-family dwelling, driveway, typical landscape appurtenances, shed, stairway down the coastal bank to the salt marsh level, and the Conways are contemplating renovation and hoping that they can get permission from you as a first step to do a renovation to the structure. And the specific details of that are basically a wraparound porch or deck around the existing structure with roof over, an outside roof covered deck, basically a porch, like a farmer's porch, I guess. And it would allow them to be a portion that is already deck. If you look on the plan, you'll see the line representing the existing deck that's squared off like this. They want to expand it across the front and wrap it around. The wetland resources within jurisdiction include Great Pond, land under the ocean, salt marsh system, coastal bank, and there's also land subject to coastal storm flowage on the property. Although it's on the coastal bank, it's boundary VE 15. We showed the associated 25-foot Falmouth wetland regulation zone parallel and offset landward to it. None of the proposed structure is in that. This is a buffer zone redevelopment project. We show the calculations for impervious surfaces, and the related mitigation planting to offset the increases in impervious surface. The details of that are in the plans prepared by Blue Flax Design. There is a limit of work shown on the plan, and they're proposing dry wells. Septic system for this house is between the house and the street, existing, adequate, no plans to do anything to change that. That's just a general overview. The specifics of the land management plan and the mitigation planting design I will leave to Teresa, and I'll turn it over to her, and we're both here to answer questions.
All right, thank you, Mike. Good evening, Teresa.
Good evening. Teresa Sprague, Blue Flax Design. Madam Chair, I would like to request an opportunity to submit some plans, some minor plan revisions that we made based on feedback we received from the Commission at our last hearing for another project. They're currently showing on the plan that we're presenting. You do not have them in front of you. The plans that were submitted, that you have in front of you, were submitted before we got feedback regarding our another project. Again, there are no major changes to the plan. They're just updated.
Madam Chairman,
I
it's
think
up
this
to
is
you,
getting
but
out
this
of
is,
hand.
this is,
Okay. That's fine.
There are too
What I'm going
many
to present is going to be
submissions
slightly
on the spot. You know that. We don't
Understood.
appreciate that.
Yep, so what I'm going to present has a couple of minor changes to what you're seeing this evening.
Okay.
Nothing major. So I'd like to start with the land management plan and the existing conditions on the site. As Mike described, we've got a coastal bank in the southeast side of the property. This lot is typical of other developed lots on Untitled Chapter, with a single-family dwelling, driveway, lawn area, shed on the south side of the house, with a set of elevated wooden stairs leading from the house to the bottom of the coastal bank. There are two small stone patios totaling 105 square feet, located in the southeast and southwest corners of the yard closest to the top of the coastal bank. The lawn surrounding the house currently extends directly to the top of the coastal bank. The site itself is a mix of native and non-native invasive vegetation. Within the resource areas and associated buffer zones, roughly 40% of the vegetation by composition is invasive. Invasive species located on the site include Asiatic bittersweet, shrub honeysuckle, black swallowwort, Scotch broom, and English ivy. Invasive vines have damaged some of the existing native vegetation, particularly oak trees on the coastal bank, by covering and girdling. In addition to those invasive species, we have also identified greenbrier and poison ivy, both native species, somewhat aggressive, both present on the bank. Other non-native species that are present within the resource area include a euonymus hedge and a cultivar of Juniperus virginiana called gray owl juniper. Though none of those are identified as invasive species in the state of Massachusetts, they have an opportunity to be replaced by native naturalized vegetation. Native vegetation that is growing on the property includes oaks, pitch pines, eastern red cedar, arrowwood viburnum, and again the gray owl juniper, which is a cultivar of eastern red cedar. Several areas on the coastal bank lack any substantial ground cover, leaving them bare and vulnerable to erosion. I do have some photographs that I'd like to share with you. I did not put them on the board so that you could enter them as part of the record, if I may.
Yes.
So you see in the photographs, as well as the photos included in the land management plan, that there is lacking any understory layer whatsoever, shrub or ground cover layer. This is due to the fact that this area had previously been covered by invasive vines. You'll see in some of the photographs that I'm sharing the vegetative cover in the property just to the east. And that's what this property had previously looked like. It was covered with Asiatic bittersweet. You can see signs of the girdling from the bittersweet, as well as bittersweet, leftover bittersweet vines in the trees. The property owner, Mr. Conway, who's here this evening, had removed the invasive vines from the area without the understanding that he should have been limited and had permits to remove the invasive vines. So basically, they were cut and removed from the site, not treated, just cut and removed. There's a substantial seed bank in the area. We suspect that those invasive plants will come back just as quickly as they had previously covered. In addition to that, there's been historical cutting of the oak trees on this bank. Most of the oaks that we're identifying and proposing for removal are poorly formed, girdled by invasive vines, and severely damaged, leaving them more susceptible to pest and disease degradation. We did flag the cut oak trees that we are proposing to remove at the site, so if you had an opportunity to get out to the site, you would have seen blue flagging on the trees that we're proposing to remove. Of course, managing the trees this way has caused them to continuously sprout, leading to a cycle of pruning, resulting in continuous disturbance of habitat and vegetation on the coastal bank. In addition to that, there is a substantial amount of yard debris that has been dumped historically on the coastal bank, weeds, leaves, etc. The pile's been building up over time. Obviously, this should be discontinued due to this disturbance on the coastal bank and has likely led to some of the die-off of the ground cover layers. So the goals of the plan that we're proposing this evening are to address the removal of vegetation that's damaged due to the previous poor pruning practices under the previous ownership, as well as the damage to those pruned trees due to the invasive vines, to protect the coastal bank from erosion, to restore the site with a healthy native vegetation and understory, to manage and remove non-native invasive species, and to provide the appropriate mitigation for construction of the new structure within the buffer zones A and B by restoring portions of the lawn that are not currently vegetated. So we're looking at proposed mitigation areas within Zone A consist of 850 square feet of lawn and 100 square feet of non-native hedge that we're going to be replacing with native naturalized vegetation, serving a much-needed buffer to the resource area. In addition to that, we are also proposing to plant an additional vegetated buffer within Zone A. It will not count towards your mitigation requirement because it's within 10 feet of the structure. However, we believe that it's important to have this additional mitigation to intercept stormwater before it reaches the bank. So with that, we'd be adding an additional 151 square feet of native plantings, not part of the mitigation. They're shown in purple on the plan. The quality of the vegetation on the coastal bank, which is about 5,070 square feet, will benefit by being rehabilitated through invasive species management, restoring varied vertical canopy layers, including a ground cover layer, a shrub layer, and additional trees. Replacing damaged, degraded trees with trees and shrubs that are healthy, native, and allowed to flourish, providing stability for the coastal bank, and again, further protecting the bank by establishing a deep-rooted ground cover layer. We'd be proposing to replace damaged oaks and eliminating need for continual disturbance. What we're proposing to do here is add 56 shrubs for the mitigation portion. In addition to that, we're proposing to plant 9 trees and 123 native shrubs on the coastal bank to restore that ground cover layer. In the land management plan, we get into more detail. There is, in the updated land management plan, a mitigation table, which we'll be submitting. Obviously, we're looking at a proposed increase in impervious surface of 365 square feet, 1 tree proposed to be removed. The mitigation required within Zone A is 1,095 square feet, trees required to be replaced at 1-to-1, which we're providing. We're proposing 950 square feet of mitigation within the A zone and 610 square feet of mitigation within the resource area for a total of 1,560 square feet of mitigation with 1,297 square feet required. In addition to that, we're proposing 184 square feet of mitigation within the B zone. 1 tree will be removed within Zone B, will be replaced within Zone B. On the coastal bank, we are proposing to remove 13 of those cut stump oaks And we are proposing to plant 9 additional trees and 123 shrubs on the coastal bank. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about the proposed plan.
Thank you. Maureen, would you like to start?
Madam Chairman, can I just ask Mike?
Oh, I'm sorry,
Teresa
yes,
a
of
few
course you can,
questions?
Jen.
Mike, quick question on your patios. The patio areas, the ones, the stone patio, I don't really have any questions on the additions. I do have questions on the stone patio and the circular patio. Were those permitted that close to the bank, do you know?
I don't know. I just know that they're there and they appear to be very old. I don't know about permits. It's probably not likely, but I don't know.
The only reason I'm asking is you're counting them towards your mitigation, that's why. So it's just like a shed that shows up, we're gonna ask, so. Yeah, if you may wanna just see if you can see them in some, I mean, they're real, I don't know if you'd be able to see them in some areas, but we may wanna check on that. That's all I have for you, Mike. Teresa?
Yes.
We met out on the site.
Yes, we did.
Yes. How many trees are you removing from the bank itself?
13 of the stumped trees. We've flagged all the trees that we're proposing to remove. In addition to that, there are other trees that have been cut but we believe can be rehabilitated. So those trees are proposing to remain.
And your trees on the bank are in your little X marks?
Yes, that's correct. There's 11 currently showing on the plan you see in front of you. There's
Okay.
13 that we're proposing to remove.
And the reason the 13 aren't shown on this plan?
Because when we went out to flag the trees, we did a recount and discovered that there were 2 additional trees that were not shown on the site plan that we counted in our count when we flagged the trees for viewing. So in the new plan, we're showing the approximate location of those trees.
And you're showing all 13?
Yes.
And the oak clusters, and the cherry, and the twin oak, and the pitch pine are all slated to stay?
Correct.
And if you're taking 13 trees totaling how many caliper inches?
We did not do a caliber inch count there. The trees that are there are between 4 and 6 caliber inches. In addition to that, there's a damaged cedar tree, which I sent a picture around of, that's not located at the edge of the salt marsh. And there's a damaged cherry. It's completely covered by invasive vines currently. The top's missing, it's broken in several places, it's girdled. So those are the 2 additional trees that are not showing on the plan. They weren't located when the site was field surveyed, and we've located them since on the updated revised plan. And I've passed pictures around of those.
Okay, so my commissioners over here are telling me there's 54 caliper inches being removed, and we're putting 9 trees back on a coastal bank?
We're putting a total of 9 trees back on the coastal bank, correct?
How big are these trees?
We're putting back pitch pines and oaks on the coastal bank.
How big?
They are
Did I not
1
see
to
them?
2 inch caliber pitch pines and scrub oak, which will come in because they're taprooted or grown in containers. So I don't have a caliber inch on those.
Because they're about that big.
A 5-gallon scrub oak,
You have 2 gallon on here.
5-gallon.
We have 2
Sorry.
gallon.
You don't. We have 5-gallon on the updated plan. I didn't realize that.
Teresa, when you came in and wanted to submit the updated plan, you mentioned a hearing about the board. What hearing was that?
It was the last hearing I attended 2 weeks ago.
What was the address?
The address was 8 Bridge Street.
I think it was a little more than 2 weeks ago.
I wasn't here 2 weeks ago, and I was at that hearing.
You were?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I think there should be more trees placed on that bank. That bank has been pretty managed, for lack of a better term. I understand, your probably your client's desire for, you know, a nice open view. But if you look on either side of that bank, you have trees.
We do. So what we have to the east of that bank, and I don't have photographs of that because we're not dealing with the site, but to the east of that bank, all of those trees are cut and managed exactly as the trees at 181 are cut and managed. I did not look at the trees to the bank to the west, so I did not go down and look at those trees.
Mhm.
In
And they were
addition,
cut
there's-
and managed on the, it's not your client's issue, but they were cut and managed on the adjacent property. Does not look like to enhance the view of,
I believe
that
the property to the east actually cut and managed some of the
Yeah,
trees
on this.
property to manage the view
Yeah.
in that direction.
I couldn't remember if it was this house
Yeah.
that way or that house this way.
No, I
Yeah.
believe the house directly to the east has cut and managed, and they had also cut and managed trees in this area on this property. So these were not trees that were cut and managed by the current property owners.
No, I understand
Yeah.
that, but you have to understand our desire.
No, I do,
They're taking down 54 caliper inches of oak trees on a coastal bank, a total of 13 trees, and you're proposing 9, now it's 5-gallon containers.
Yeah, I agree. I think one thing that's important to think about as you look at these photographs is it's very difficult to characterize these as healthy oak trees. So we're not taking down 54 caliper inches of healthy oak trees. We're taking down trees that have been cut, girdled, they're missing bark, they're extremely damaged. All of the trees of significant size that we're proposing that had been cut but we believe can be managed back to healthy canopy trees are remaining. So we're not completely denuding this bank of trees. We're basically proposing to remove the trees that are severely damaged, as we've shown in the photographs.
I understand, Teresa, and you and I have had long conversations about, the ability to manage a client's wishes with the commission's desire to have a nice,
Understood.
fully, absolutely vegetated coastal bank with appropriate structure.
Right.
And I don't think putting 9 trees or, 9 trees, small, trees is appropriate. I mean, how long are they going to take to grow to, a decent size where they can provide some sort of wildlife habitat? A while.
They will, absolutely.
It'll take a while.
I'd again argue that the trees that are there are not
I
ever going to grow.
understand that. I'm just saying, I think this board is going to want to see a few more trees on that bank.
Understood.
I'm not going to argue with you, I'm just
No,
stating a
I
hearing.
understand. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to make sure that we're characterizing what we're removing here as not proposing to come in and remove healthy native canopy trees. They're damaged.
No, I understand. I'm not trying to grill you, I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
no,
you
no,
know.
I.
And when we were
completely
out on the site, I told you this was going to be a
No, and
tough
we
sell.
recognize that, and we definitely brought that
Yeah,
back to
I-
Mr. Conway and explained that we would have to replace trees on this bank. I mean, there's no doubt about it, there's definitely a desire to keep a view that was there when he purchased the property. But understanding the level of damage that there is on this bank, I mean, the reality is, if the bittersweet and the other vines had been kept in place, we'd see a far more different amount of damage. When we go out there now, it's been cleaned. So I think that's something to keep in mind, that if we were to just walk away from this bank, all of that bittersweet would be back there within 2 seasons. So,
So if we
so we're trying to do a
prior to
full-scale
him.
restoration.
No, I know what
Yeah.
you're trying to do, I know. Okay, I mean, that's it. I mean, I told you in the field it was going to be a tough sell
No,
for the board.
I understood,
So,
yeah, absolutely.
It was going to cause them angst.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the rest of the ones you don't have, so the ones I mentioned, those
There's
are all
2
going to be saved.
There's, yes.
So so just for the record, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that are going to be
There's
saved?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that are being saved.
Okay.
correct. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All set, Jen?
Yes, I am.
All right. Lori, would you like to start off, or would you like to defer?
Kevin?
Please.
Right. Well, one of the concerns I have is and I know it's pretty boilerplate what you do,
Well, I think then, and that we understood your feedback
Right.
from the last hearing, and this is why we went back and revised all of our land management
Okay,
plans.
well,
So we
you
took
still-
your critique and took it to heart.
Well, you still have mechanical in there, so could you explain on this steep coastal bank what you're mechanically gonna do?
There is nothing being mechanically removed except for the gray owl juniper at the top of the coastal bank that Jennifer and our conversation at the site had asked us to remove.
Right, so what's your mechanical removal?
Would be a dingo, walk behind skid steer.
Okay.
With a grapple. Just to remove that vegetation right at the top of coastal bank.
Okay, and all the rest is by hand?
All the rest of it has to be by hand. There's no access down that bank. It's a very steep bank. So
Well, I don't know,
yes.
Little Island Road was very steep, and that was pretty clearly denuded, so.
The only, well, we're not here to discuss that this
Okay.
evening.
So again, I hope the board did go out and see what was permitted, because now we're right back to this project again, type of project. I guess so there's no mechanical, and one of the things I don't understand is, I know that these trees have been cut, and they're in poor condition, and they're never gonna be in their natural state, but a lot of us are like that as well. So what I have never figured out is, dead trees, you always have your little butterflies and everybody's happy on your thing here. And I would just like to see some dead trees left, some not so perfect trees left, because, you know, the woodpeckers, the titmouses, they all love the owls. They love the dead trees. There aren't bad insects on good healthy trees. They have to have dead trees. So it should be mixed up. If you're trying to create habitat, then you need to leave some of this bad, what clients think is bad stuff, for these things to enjoy
Yeah.
and
So-
feed on.
So I agree with you that snags have an extremely important role in this, and we can certainly leave some of these as snags. Our goal is to try and get a multi-layered canopy established on the bank. And as far as the little bunnies and the little butterflies, we provide this plant guide not only for conservation commissioners who aren't as familiar with vegetation as you and I are, but also for the clients who are going to be responsible for sustaining this and maintaining it in perpetuity. So it gives them an opportunity to understand what we're putting back and what we're providing. It's really an educational opportunity.
Yeah. Well, it
So
would
I
be-
know this has
yeah.
come up a few times, and we use the symbols because frankly, it's just easy for people to read. And people are more likely to look at the graph than
Okay.
read narratives.
All right. And again, there are certain, some species like dead trees.
Yes, they
The,
absolutely do, no doubt about it. I agree with you 100%. And we could certainly take a look at these trees and say, well, let's just leave some of them to naturally degrade. A lot of them are girdled, they're in bad shape, and we're just trying to make room to plant new trees, new shrubs, ground cover.
Okay. So the next question I have is, and I'm really curious more than anything, the scrub oak. We had a woman that was on our board, her name was Karen Wilson, who did a lot of research out on the base on trying to propagate scrub oak.
Yeah.
And there are no scrub oak on this property. They're all white or red oaks.
They're
So,
red or black, yeah.
yeah, so why are we going with scrub oak? Because they're not there. They usually are a sand plane kind of tree, and like pitch pines are too.
Yeah, well, I think that they absolutely, there's pitch pine on this site already.
Yeah.
There are other oaks on the site already. Without a doubt, scrub oak could absolutely exist and thrive on this site. So that was just the species that was chosen. We could certainly do a red oak, we could certainly do a black oak.
No, I'm more curiosity, because they're more of an interior tree than they are a saltwater front
Well,
tree.
they certainly exist in this kind of atmosphere, in these kinds of site conditions at edges of salt marsh all the time. So, I mean, they're not an inappropriate tree for this site. But we can definitely use different oak species.
Can you explain to the board how big around
Yeah,
they will be?
Yes,
when
they're
you
going
plant?
to max out at about 20 feet tall.
No, when they go in. How big are the plants that you're putting in?
We're proposing to put them in at a 5-gallon size, so they would go in at about this height and about that wide around.
That's the root.
The root ball.
No, that's the height of the plant above ground in a 5-gallon size. We're not talking about tubelings. We're talking about a 5-gallon plant.
You went this way.
You went
The
this way.
girth.
Then you
It
went
was-
this
What
way.
you were showing is the root
The
ball.
Yeah.
Are you talking about I'm talking
Yes.
about the size of the
At
canopy.
12 inches, what is the caliper?
Probably, I don't know, it's less than an inch.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is about not even your thumb. hardly, right?
Well, it's probably, yeah, it
Okay.
could be
All right, now
about an inch.
what would a 2-gallon be? How big would the
I don't
plant?
know.
Well, you proposed them, so you didn't,
And the plan has been changed based on feedback we received from another.
the reason I'm saying this is that a 5-gallon pot, and the plant doesn't make much difference, because if you go to a nursery, if they haven't changed them out, some of the plants, they put them in a 5-gallon pot, and they're the same size as the ones that were last year in a 3-gallon pot. The smaller the pot, the smaller the hole, the smaller the impact on the coastal bank. So only having 3 proposed, 3, that's big, in a 5-gallon pot. Why wouldn't, when you're looking at how many were out there, that we would have probably a better chance to have 25 or 30 that are in 1-gallon pots.
We
or
could
2-gallon.
absolutely, if you want us to put 25 or 30 scrub oaks on here, we could absolutely do that. We're basically looking for diversity, and we're trying to get a shrub, we're trying to get a layer that doesn't exist. So we have no ground cover layer, we have no shrub layer, we have no canopy layer barely existing on
No,
this
you really have
bank.
nothing there.
No, so
to
we're
work
just trying to
No.
create multi-layers.
And then the last question, down on the salt marsh, could you say you're doing something with it, but what are you doing?
So we're removing the shrub honeysuckle, removing the invasive vines that are currently there. I just passed around
Yeah,
some
this is in that
photographs.
yellow area.
Yes, in
along the
yellow
salt
area.
marsh.
Exactly. at
All
the
right,
edge
and
of
what
the
are you
salt marsh.
planting there?
Baccharis and salt marsh vegetation, so Spartina patens, Disticulus spicata, I believe it's spelled out on the plan. Disticulus spicata and Spartina patens and Baccharis helmifolia.
Maybe I don't have that.
Salt marsh edge on the bottom.
Yeah, I see the salt marsh edge, but mine only says mitigation planting, it doesn't say what they're doing.
No, over on your plant notes, Maury, all
Yep.
the way to the bottom,
Yep,
in between where it says resource area and the writings where the symbols are, she has little plant notes that says salt marsh edge. Am I
Oh,
correct,
all right, way down
Teresa?
there.
Yes, yeah, and
Okay.
there's also a description of the salt marsh edge, just a minute.
In the plan.
The vegetation that's proposed for the salt marsh edge under the planting
Okay.
specifications.
I was looking up at the yellow where it says invasive species management area, but I didn't see the yellow
Yeah.
to correspond,
Yes.
down at the very bottom. Thank you.
I have a clarification question, Madam Chairman,
All
maybe
right, are you
Teresa.
done?
Yeah.
Okay.
Teresa, you said 9 trees, but we don't have them all shown on our plan?
No, the 9 trees are shown on the plan. There's 3 eastern red cedars, 3 pitch pines, and 3 scrub oak showing on the plan. What you're not seeing on the plan and what has changed is we were originally going to propose to remove an arborvitae hedge that's currently existing here. And we've since, so there's an arborvitae hedge that's existing.
Teresa, if you
here.
don't mind, can you come here for a second?
Sure.
I'm sorry, I'm missing where your other ones are. Sorry. So here's your
So
pitch pine.
there's a pitch pine that's been added, these eastern red cedars, this
No,
one's.
no, I want the ones on the bank.
Yep, so right here, there's one more pitch pine up in here.
Oh,
That's been added, that's not on
Okay,
this
yeah.
plan. And then these 3 oaks, and then this cedar, and this cedar here. These cedars, we've removed these cedars because there's an arborvitae
Okay.
hedge there.
okay, so when I went back and asked how many trees are growing on the coastal bank, you said 9?
No, oh,
But-
I'm sorry, there's 6 trees on the coastal bank, now it's these total.
Okay, okay,
Sorry.
it's okay. That's even like, you might need to beef that up a little bit more.
No, we can definitely, I mean, I
Okay.
can see, I can absolutely agree that it would not be inappropriate to do 1-to-1 in this situation.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's it, Madam Chairman, sorry.
That's okay. Maury, you were finished, you said? Or you-
Well, actually, now I'm a little confused, because I have 6 cedar trees, 2 pitch pine.
There's a new map.
There's a new plan, so and again,
Oh,
I apologize.
So we're
Where-
not, okay.
May I start?
I'm going to see, Kevin, did you want to? No, okay.
Kevin's
Let's see.
afraid. So, I have a couple of things. I'm cranky just like everybody else at this point. Even you, just a little bit, yeah, okay. Got it. First of all, replacing trees, it's tree for tree or caliper inch to caliper inch, that's the ratio. So 6 trees for 13 trees isn't going to be sufficient.
Understood.
Second thing is, when you had that, I was here for that other hearing, and I was gone from April, I missed the April 4th meeting, and there was no meeting on the 11th, so it was prior, so it was a while, it was like 4 weeks ago, or 5 weeks ago that we had that hearing,
321.
okay? There we go.
Thank you.
There you go. Thank you.
And you said, I don't, if this side is cut and that side's not, well, I actually have the picture, because when I was out there, I said, well, look at this. This is what a coastal bank in this area should look like, which is one of the neighbors, as opposed to the neighbor.
To the neighbor to the west versus the neighbor
cut.
to the east.
Right.
Yeah.
So, just the other thing is, I'm on 2 different boards for the town, and in both cases this week, people come in at the last minute with the change,
I understand.
and that's not conducive to us reviewing it properly.
I agree with you, and I understand, and I think you know that I've been working with this board now for many years, and this is the first time that I've asked for this, and so I apologize. There were
Okay.
mistakes made, and we have corrected them. We've been working diligently over the past several weeks to take the critiques that we heard from you previously and to incorporate them into the plans going forward.
Okay, great. My last question to you is,
Yep.
so you handed us these pictures, and I put in today's date, because this is when you're putting them into the record.
Okay.
But I have no idea of when these pictures were taken.
They were taken in, I can give you dates for those pictures. They were taken in January and in April. So they were taken, there's a few of those pictures were taken when the sunny pictures were taken in April, the cloudy pictures were taken in January when I met with Jen out at the site.
All right,
So
I'll try to
can-
separate it. If
if
I can't, I'll
I
have
will
you do
date
it.
the pictures for you, yes.
Okay,
That's
thanks.
something I'm going to pick on you like I've picked on Mike before. That is something they've asked.
The dated
It's
photos.
when we appreciate the photos, Teresa, but the board has in the past asked you to date the pictures, so we're not guessing what time of year they were taken. Thank you.
Yep.
Yep.
Mark?
Oh, just more on those pictures. For all I can tell, there are 7 pictures of the same tree, just working your way around.
They just all look the same.
I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
It might be nice if you want to show them and have any weight to your case, you might want to show a chart where they're taken from. That's what we often see in
Yep.
other operations, not here necessarily. And I think we've got to wait for the plan myself. I can't do anything with wishes.
Peter?
No questions.
Steve?
Can you tell me about the arborvitae again, please?
Yes, there's an arborvitae hedge.
I know where it is.
Oh, yes. So originally, we were going to propose to remove the arborvitae and replace those with native cedar trees. We've since rescinded that, and we are going to be just leaving the arborvitae hedge in place. So that's why you see on the plan in front of you, you see cedar trees along this edge here, along the western property line, where we are going to propose to just remove the euonymus, put in a cedar, and leave the arborvitae hedge in place.
Well, the reason I was concerned is they affected the purpose of building this deck. So you can review the ocean.
No, not at all. No.
So they'll be maintained. And the 20-inch oak, not by the shed, that's being removed, is that a damaged tree? Is that?
The 20-inch, do you want to? Yes, please do.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Peter Conway. It's dropping stuff on the cars and people. So limbs are, the 2 big ones in front, limbs are dropping out. So it's dangerous. That's my biggest motivation.
Okay. I got a couple of those.
If it wasn't that it was up on the boundary somewhere, but with kids and elderly relatives and such just walking, my mother-in-law had part of a pine drop on her, and so now she won't go out of the house, which is one of the reasons why we're putting the covered porch on.
Okay, thank you. And in fact, just the driveway area, is it as existing? The cobbled shell drive, is it the same exact size?
Yeah, we're not changing anything on the driveway.
All right, it looks bigger on the plan, that's the only reason I say that, than in reality, or in the site visit. Thank you, that's all.
Thanks, Steve. Jamie?
Mike, what's the foundation wall for?
The AC?
I gotta refresh my memory.
Is it a wall or a pad?
The little one by the
Tiny
AC.
square off here to, I think, to facilitate a stairway down to the basement.
The backside of the house
On
is.
the back side of the house, you can't get access from the floor area inside down into the basement, so they're trying to create a little bit more room for us inside, interior stairway.
So where will the AC go?
Where will the AC go? Right
Same.
next to it?
It shouldn't move.
Because that'll be on
It's
top.
only 10 inches. Yeah.
I thought you just said it was gonna be stairs, Mike.
I know, but that's what he's saying, the foundation is the
Oh,
stairway.
I'm fuzzy on that.
Yeah. That's right. The stairs in the house are split stairs, so you go up and then there's a landing and then you go up, so it's not like a full front-to-back stairs. So in order to get into, and currently, the stairs go from the garage into the basement. So there's no access from inside the house proper into the basement. So all we want to do is take the stairs and continue them down in the basement, which means going down 5 feet, hit a landing, and then go back 5 feet. And in order to do that, because the house is cantilevered over the foundation about 10 inches, so the stairs, they don't fit. I can't go straight down. I have to go out 10 inches so the stairs can just naturally follow. So the stairs currently go, they zigzag up to the first floor, then zigzag up to the second floor. And all I'm trying to do is zigzag down into the basement.
But where is the AC unit gonna go?
They're going to stay right where they are, because we only need 10 inches. We don't need, the AC units are off the house by a good 3 or 4 feet. They're
I got it.
condenser,
Yeah.
they're not on the house, they're,
So he's only trying to make up the cantilever.
right, that's,
Thank
in
you.
fact, if it was just the overhang of the house, if it weren't that you represent the foundation, if it was just like the aerial view, there would be no impact to anything.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Thank you.
That's all you have? Okay, fine. I have nothing to add to these questions, so.
Oh, I have
We
one
need a
more.
continuance.
Yes, I think you do.
Let me guess the date, Mike.
It'd be the 16th of May.
May
I don't know
16th.
if you want to see me 3 times in a row.
I'm not going to see you
As long as you
then.
don't put a revised plan up there and
Mike, yeah, that's a warning.
No more.
No, come in on the 16th with everything that you want us to look at with these 3 continuances, okay?
Having been submitted a week prior.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know why you're.
I'm saying that
Because
because
you put a
every
revised
plan we
plan
looked at
on.
tonight has changed a little bit.
no, his did on the last one.
Oh, on the last one, but on this one, I usually.
He's not innocent.
And it's, I mean, you know, it's not as if we're talking only to you. You
No, I
just,
know, and, you know,
it's been happening a lot with a lot of,
we're trying our best. I think everyone knows, everyone's like out straight in every aspect.
I
of it.
understand, but we end up, you know, obviously we review the things that are submitted. And if, you know, if we had your revisions a week earlier, we'd be reviewing the revisions and not the things that we don't need to look at. So, you know, we're all busy.
I hear you, and I can't, I'm human, and I'm gonna do my very best. I will probably make more mistakes.
That's okay.
And if you do, Mike,
We'll just
We'll
ask
we'll
for
point
let
them
you
out.
know.
I'm sure you will.
I, however, will not make any more mistakes. But you, I have these plans prepared, so you will have them
Put it up.
Okay,
already
thank
in
you.
advance.
At the request of the applicant, I'm putting on a motion on the table to continue this to May 16th.
Second.
Mike Borselli, night.
Yes, again. All right, anything else from the board?
One last question.
Yeah.
Can you flag the trees that you're cutting down?
We did.
Okay.
They're all flagged.
All right, anything from the public? All those in favor of continuing to May 16th, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you.
Mike, you're going to give me some, or you're not going to give me the plans?
Because I'm going to continue, and I'm going to give you a 12 one, I would try it in that
All right.
Mike, you're not up yet.
No, we've got a couple more things. That's okay.
You're so anxious, huh?
Yeah.
We are too.
Things,
Oh,
All right, next, Mark Forbes, 76 Wacoit Highway, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to construct a single-family four-bedroom house with garage underneath, install dry wells, utilities, paved driveway, Title V sewage disposal, and associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
McGrath, that was just mean.
Who is this?
We're,
Up.
That's Mike Borselli.
Well, you need to tell them.
Oh, Madam Chairman, for the record, Mike Borselli, this is a continued hearing. I attempted to persuade you to allow us to do alterations within a small portion of the outer buffer zone.
Of the riverfront.
Yeah.
Outer
And we're moving.
riparian zone.
Yep.
and
right.
I got feedback, I got mixed feedback. My client was here,
Was here tonight, is that what you mean?
No, he was
Or
here at the original.
Last
hearing.
time, yeah, okay.
He
Yep.
asked me to close the hearing. We're not making any revisions to the plan, and we're going to allow you to deliberate and make a decision on the plan that was previously submitted.
Okay,
Thank you, Mike.
That sounds fine, thank you, Mike. All right.
I make a
all
motion
those-
Wait,
No, yeah,
You have to close.
I need it.
no, I want to make a statement before he closes.
Well, we don't even have a motion yet, so.
Well, that's what I say. I want to make a statement before he closes. And this isn't, you already know this, but this, I want to put into the record the plan for the lot on BB Acres, which was also in the riverfront.
Okay.
Can I enter that into the plan?
Yeah.
All right.
Chair?
Into the record? Yeah.
Yes,
Confused.
yes,
I want to enter into the plan another riverfront,
into the file.
into the file, into the record. I want to enter this plan into the record so that you can see another plan that was a riverfront plan where they were allowed to build and sort of what the intent was, why people were allowed to build in the outer part of the riverfront. There are two parts to the riverfront, right?
Right.
This is a lot that has an extensive part outside the riverfront. There are some lots that are just within the riverfront area. Therefore, if they can do anything, they have to use that 5,000 square feet or 10%, whichever is greater. So I just want people to see that
It's part of the record.
as part of the record. So with that said, and actually it was your plan. With that said, I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
All those in favor, there's no more comment, I take it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
you.
All right. Joan Foster, care of Jack Foster, Lot 11 Chase Road. This has already been continued to June 6th.
Mike,
So,
you're up.
Now we come to request to amend the existing order of conditions.
This is,
Ed, we gonna take these two things together?
You can.
Amend and extend? All right, I'm gonna read them both, and then we'll get on with it. So the request to amend the existing order of conditions, Edward Gordon, 120 Racing Beach Avenue, Falmouth, Massachusetts. Request to amend the existing order of conditions, DEP 25-3437, to regrade the planting area along the driveway, reduce proposed building footprint and hardscape footprint, reduce proposed retaining walls and associated fill, reduce grading and drainage of proposed naturally vegetated area. And simultaneously, we are going to hear the request to extend the existing order of conditions on the same property in the same DEP file, 120 Racing Beach Avenue, DEP number 25-3437. They're requesting a 2-year extension. Current expiration date is May 14th, 2018. Hello, Mr. Gordon.
Hello, how are you?
Fine, thanks. How are you?
For the record, my name is Edward Gordon. I'm the property owner at 120 Racing Beach Avenue. I reside for Gloucester Street, Boston. This project's had a fairly long history, good amount of being before this commission. You'll see a few familiar faces. I want to say at the outset that the commission has, and its staff have been completely fair with me, and I appreciate all their efforts to date. Although there are some mitigating unique factors with respect to delay in completing the project, ultimately the position I'm in is of my doing and my responsibility. Joining me is Mike McGrath from Holmes, McGrath Engineering. Mike's here to introduce any technical aspects of the amendment if you have questions. I thought that with respect to the extension, you deserve to hear from me personally, given the extent of the delay and the reasons behind it. So, should I just dive into both? If we're doing
Yeah,
it
how-
together, or do you want me to come back?
It's up to you, the two of you.
I mean, we opened them simultaneously,
Yeah,
Madam
right.
Chairman.
So we're discussing both matters at once.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I first wanted to just update you on the timeline of some events and what we've completed to date, and what we intend to do prior to the current expiration in May, if that's okay.
Sure.
From the issuance of the original order, the project was tied up in litigation of appeals of both the Concom DP order as well as litigation and enjoining construction of the house addition as contemplated, which both were promulgated by our neighbor to the south. In the summer of 2012, we started and completed the fill project and the retaining wall to the west of the house here, and the lawn, as well as the mitigation plantings and screen plantings to the west and north of the house. We also did 2 drainage structures and the stone patio and the trench drainage. There's a small section of stone patio that was not done and is still proposed. We needed to have land court dispensation to be able to start that because the litigation was continuing, but since it wasn't really near my neighbor, we received that approval and went forward. In 2013, both pieces of litigation were resolved in our favor. There was technically an outstanding order that's still not satisfied, which delayed us a few more months, but in 2014, we came back to this commission for an amendment to complete the work in earnest. In 2014, we also had some extraordinary family issues. We had a flood in our main residence, which had us out for 3 years, living in hotels and apartment. Often separate hotels and separate hotel rooms and separate apartments, and it was a huge
Drag.
Yeah, it was crushing. I know that this is life. We all experience these sorts of things, but the Cape is our refuge, and to put that under construction just was too much. We thought we would explode that, and I thought I still had time. Basically, there were a number of other things, illnesses, etc., changes in the delineation of flood lines and flood insurance, which had impacts on the design of the house, but still, when we got, after 3 years, we got back, I reasoned I still had a year and a half left, and that would be plenty of time, and I sat down to complete the design, and it just didn't happen. We wanted less mass, our program had changed, our kids were 8 years, 10 years older, we were older, everything seemed out of whack and different, so we just didn't get it done. And at this point, we are prepared to pour foundations and complete the hardscape. The foundations of the structure and complete the hardscape adjacent to the structure and pave the lower driveway and prepare the mitigation and voluntary native planting areas and the screen planting areas. A note about that, if you do not decide to extend, I don't know whether I can get the plants, available plants, or whether the best practices planting can happen by May, but we're certainly not taking that off the table. It's not ours to take off. We will perform that work. It just might not be before May 15th. Including drainage structures. The one thing that we can't do is build a house in 3 weeks. Not even a tiny house. I've been watching the programs. So, let's see. We've reluctantly settled on a foundation plan without having full architectural plans, but we're prepared to do that if we have to. We've engaged an architect who is working on them, and we have a foundation permit pending with the town. So would be quite a rush, but we'll do what we have to do. Ideally, we'd like the extension to marry up with the DEP extension, which is the reasoning for the 2 years. The DEP extension, which is the reason for the 2 years, but if this commission is inclined and wants to set hurdles for us to achieve, anything reasonable would certainly be appreciated from this side. With respect to the amendment, I do consider the preservation of the buffers to significant resource areas to be important. It's those buffers that keep the greater portion of my property from becoming a resource area and usable. And every time we've been before this commission, we've attempted to offer greater benefit of the resource areas. The reason is simple. We never wanted anyone to feel like the environment would benefit by not granting us an extension or an amendment. So we always tried to do something better. We offered mitigation that wasn't required. We offered native plantings that weren't required. We offered higher standards of mitigation versus applicable and non-applicable requirements. This extension keeps us in that tradition. Overall, impervious is less. Setback from impervious to resource areas is greater. All drainage is captured. Overall building footprint is less. Limit of work is no greater. And to further illustrate that the decrease in impervious just doesn't result in more pervious lawn, we've actually volunteered more native vegetation in what would be the A buffer, commensurate with the diminishment in the hardscape. So the square feet in diminishment in hardscape, we then took that and added native plantings in connection with the extension and the amendment request. I think essentially what you're seeing in the amendment is really just a refinement of our program. to really try to put uses to this building. We had originally thought we were going to relocate the indoor pool, which is this structure, and that doesn't seem to be the case. Honestly, if I didn't have to connect the structure, I wouldn't. I prefer less, but that's the way the zoning works. And that honestly has been a big part of the time crunch here, is making that work with a site that has elevation grade change like this has been a real challenge. The first two architects weren't up to it. So that's my spiel. If Mike wants to say anything, he's welcome, or if
Yes, he
you want
is.
any questions, I'm happy to address.
Let's see what Mike has first. Did you want to say anything additional, Mike? It's up to you.
The plans I submitted don't have any changes, they're just colors of that. So that's the only thing I have to say.
Thank you.
You got new crayons.
All right, let's see. Start with Jamie. Do you have any questions for?
I just have one
Oh, I'm
question.
sorry,
No, it's okay. It's okay. I got snappy earlier. You're allowed to ignore me.
Just
I
try
just
to expedite.
I know. Mike, the only thing I'm going to ask, and the board can ask me any questions. I did meet with Mr. Gordon once, maybe twice, I can't remember, Mr. Gordon. I did put all of the information he submitted regarding the extensions, because I read it multiple times and it was making my brain hurt. To Pat Harris, she did go over everything and said that, because my concern was the way I was looking at things or viewing things was this permit was not valid at this point. We cleared that. It is. The board can decide whether you want to grant the 2-year extension. The only question I have on this revised plan, Mike, the tree protection typical between your 22 and your 20-foot grade change next to your proposed terrace?
Yes.
What is that little thing on 22 between the dark black line and that little, is that a little wall?
Yes.
Okay. What's the top of that wall, Mike?
It would be flush with grade of the proposed lawn.
Flush with the lawn?
No, with the inside of the land it's retaining, so it would be flush to the right of it. Between that and the terrace is lawn.
And what's the grade in that area?
22, you have a grade, you have a 22 that comes right to the end of the wall.
Yeah.
So the wall would be roughly 22.
Oh, I get it. So it's just like a little...
It's just a little,
yeah,
to retain. We actually, for the most part, that's already been built. There's just a little drop off there.
Okay.
And we wanted to make sure we could have a flush to the beginning of the terrace, the hard terrace.
Okay, my thing was... There it is. So this retaining wall, typical retaining wall A, is that what that is? Or is that another part of the property?
That's the different part of the property.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. And the reason I ask is because I was on a site the other day where they had to build a little tiny retaining wall to hold back a big oak. And the oak was proposed to be saved. This board actually required it, and now it needs to be removed because the root systems are completely damaged and the tree is leaning. So I just wanted to make sure those trees were protected, really protected, and not just protected on like a paper. What's the footing for the terrace? Do you have?
So that section of it is proposed to be a built-up structure on prepared grade, so natural grade.
So there's no footing on that, it's just...
Yeah, there might be a pier or two, so the structural support would be like a sonotube.
Okay.
I don't think,
Jamie, does that make sense to you?
Yep.
Okay. All right, that was it.
Okay, Jen, I have a quick question for
Sure.
you. Is there any limit on the number of extensions we can allow?
Not in your I can check, I don't believe so in your regulations, it's really up to the board.
Right, okay.
But if it's subject to litigation.
Yeah, I'll look it up
doesn't
for you
say-
right now, Madam Chairman. I don't know of any, but
No, I'm just wondering if you want to go for one. Yeah. I'm going to, Jamie.
You're staying substantially within the original approved footprint? But
oh, it's
but there's
less.
a reduction?
Yeah, it is.
In terms of the limit of hard, yes. It's within and less. We've pulled back, in fact. And limit of work is the same, if not a little bit less.
And you're presently working with the architect for the design?
Well, we did a little bit backwards, and we wanted a footprint because how it relates to our existing house is very important to us. So we kind of wanted to know how far this was going to be and how far that was going to be. And we settled on a footprint, and basically he's working within those parameters to do all the other trades. And again, not ideal. Ideally, we would be putting hardscape in after you build a house, and even some plantings after you build a house. So depending on where we end up with an extension, that could, that could determine our sequencing.
All right, Steve?
Thank you. And thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate you. I don't have any other questions. I reviewed the plan, visited the site. It doesn't seem to be significantly different. I can understand your desire to have the two orders coincide. I'm not as familiar as other board members with those situations, but it seems like an appropriate request.
Well, if I have, the only thing worse than having to rush
Kevin,
through this amended
just
plan would
give
be
that
having
to
to rush
Betsy
through
Mori.
the previous
Mary.
plan that we don't want to build.
Read it.
So,
It's your
obviously
extension
the
stuff.
meat in this request is the extension, but we obviously want to get it right, and we want our efforts to be ultimately, towards the best plan for all of us.
Okay. Peter?
Less is more.
That-
I like it. No more questions.
Okay, great. Mark?
I have no questions.
I agree with respect to the hearing and with respect to the plan. Betsy?
Mr. Gordon, your children are 10 years older, and so am I.
You look just the same.
Well, thank you.
Well,
Well, I'm going to recommend that you get a 2-year extension, and we hope to see it all wrapped up. We hope you come and visit us again. You too, Mike, but your project will be done.
I just had one question. How is the limit of work?
Same.
You're maintaining it well?
Well, plan-wise, it's the exact same limit of
Oh,
work.
right, I know this, but
But
after all
we-
this,
Physically wise.
physically, how is it
Oh,
doing?
yes, the stuff that we've performed, we don't have. So what we did was we stopped it basically at the southwest corner of the pool house. So it's in place, wraps around everything. The one thing we haven't done, because we haven't started any demolition of the driveway, is the erosion control on the other side of Racing Beach, which was not originally proposed. It was proposed back in 2014 when we changed the driveway work. So once we get into that, and that's down grade, we will install those erosion measures, but everywhere else.
And it's all in good shape?
Yes.
Okay,
In
that's
fact,
all I care about. Thank you. Yep.
I'm glad.
Kevin?
More hay.
I've only been here for a year, and
You feel like it's been 10.
I've been to the site, everything seems fine, and it's very impressive to get a request that you're going to reduce everything that we care about. So good luck. Hopefully, high school graduation could be there.
One has come and gone, but
Well, at the request of the applicant, I recommend a 2-year extension.
And I'm also gonna put a second motion on the table. We can take both votes at the same time, that we
Oh,
close
yes,
this
second.
amendment and take it under advisement.
Second.
So we need 2 seconds.
Second. No.
Second.
Second.
You got 4. There's a bonus.
We're closing in
We're closing the hearing on the
Closing the
amendment, and
amendment.
we're
granting an extension on it.
granting a 2-year
Correct.
extension.
And who did that? Maury moved it.
Maury did the extension, I did the closing, and we heard
And who seconded Maury?
I
Jamie.
seconded the first one.
And then
Steve
Steve,
seconded. Right, Steve.
And who then
been way too many words tonight.
After a certain amount of time.
All
just
right,
get giddy.
are we ready for a vote?
No, wait a second.
Thank you.
You got it? No. So Jamie seconded Maury's, the extension, and Steve seconded mine, which was closing the amendment.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
All right, all those in favor of, we're going to take, I guess we should vote on these separately. All those in favor of closing the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All those in favor of granting a 2-year extension, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? I missed one there, but unanimous, so moved. Everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Good to see you, Mike. Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah. You back
Still
now?
alive and kicking.
Yes, you are.
Back from is it Arizona?
I was in Arizona for a month. I would urge the Conservation Commission to look at FCTV's video of the January 23rd planning board started at minute 44.
Thank you.
What?
January 23rd.
January
At
23rd?
minute 44?
Yeah,
Long enough.
basically I talk about how to fix the estuaries, because
Oh,
we
okay.
lost all kinds of
We've been,
But don't tell us now, Mike, we'll look.
No,
Yeah.
watch the movie.
we still have
I'm willing
miles to go before we sleep.
And present.
All right, turning now to voting orders of conditions. We've got these 4 orders for 5 different addresses on Gosnold Road.
The work's already been done.
The work's been done, and I think we can easily take these one at a time. The only question is if anybody is worried about, well,
Does anyone, I would open them all at once.
Okay.
We'll start with that. I can go through the findings that's going to relate to all of them, because you have to make specific findings in this. There's one condition you're going to, at least in my mind,
Okay,
need
let's do
to
it.
add to
all right,
this.
let's just, let me open them.
Okay.
All right, so we are opening the following 4 for a vote. 8 Gosnold Road, Meigs, 10 Gosnold Road, Clayman, 16 Gosnold Road, Logan, and 20 and 24 Gosnold Road, Brown.
Okay, the findings that need to be made obviously are, these were issued under the emergency permit, or emergency declaration, excuse me. I'll get the exact reference to that emergency declaration. They submitted the notice of intent after the fact to comply with your bylaw. And the only special condition that I would require or recommend requiring on all of these is that you have them do as-built at the end.
Yes.
And
Right,
com-
I
yeah.
think Maury brought that up. in the
Right.
hearing.
Is there was there something mentioned at the last hearing that pertains to a specific one of these properties?
I don't believe
There was
so.
only one, I believe, the first one that had the buffer of all the, I think there's one with a buffer.
Yeah, well, any.
Yeah, the as-built will show
any-
that, so it won't
Any
matter.
area above that is denuded needs to be
Restored.
Restored. To the original chapter 91 license and are, because they showed buffers on top of them. So I just want to make sure the buffers are replanted.
Okay.
Okay, with that, I make a motion that we accept 8, 10, 16, 20, and 24 Gosnold Road as discussed.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Are you set,
Four.
Susan?
Oh, okay.
23 Ormond Drive, Schubert. So, this is the second floor
Okay,
addition.
so it's all of you but Steve on that one.
This is one they didn't have any room to
Was
put
it?
anything.
Was it all? Oh, wait, hang on, guys. Hold up. Ormond's. Oh, you know what, Mark? You're not on these either.
Mark's not on
I'm
this?
not here.
Yep.
Wait, Steve was here.
Yes, I was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hacking my way through the meeting.
I'm sorry,
I'm
Steve.
sorted by-
I was getting incorrect information over here.
It's lazy.
Yep, so Steve Peter, Kevin Jamie, Mary Beth, yeah, so poor Mark. When staff went out there, we didn't think there was really any issues with Ormond Drive. Did the board identify any issues? I don't think I saw any from.
No. I would have liked some trees, but there's no place to put
There's no
trees.
place to put them.
Yep.
Mark and I discussed that in the field. We obviously, you know us. Although, did you guys say maybe condition for a tree?
No. We put,
We discussed trees, but
yeah,
I...
no trees on plan or size, 2 removed A and B zone.
Yeah.
No room for trees, that's all I had.
You know, there really isn't any room. If there was, trust me, I would let you know. Mark would be fighting for it, but it's just not practical.
And the only thing I hope you're gonna do, Jen, and I know you are, you're gonna make sure that the limit of work is staked straw bales.
Oh, I'm gonna have a brief discussion with you guys after this.
Really brief.
Yeah.
Yeah. 5 minutes.
It won't even take me that long, guys.
All right, anybody have anything else?
No?
Oh, I'm gonna make a motion to close and, I'm gonna make a motion to accept as discussed.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. All right, and
This
now-
man has very patiently been waiting for this discussion.
28 Nichols Road, Stephen and Ann Sherman.
Okay, I want to talk to the board about, let me grab that one. The last plan that was put in.
He's incorrect. It doesn't matter if you limit tree. It's still not for vegetation.
Okay, here we go. Wait, I have to find Mark's notes, I'm sorry.
This is right here.
This is all,
Because he, instead of the
oh, let me
3
ask
trees
him
here,
to talk about that. Cape Cotter, Ormond, Nichols, okay. I just have notes about an as-built gravel area, 6-foot root ball for 7-foot caliber tree with a question mark and an exclamation point. I have a thing here that says Maury, line of trees. Limbs have been altered, caliper to caliper ratio exceeded 3-to-1 ratio. Okay, guys, the one thing that staff had noticed and you might have talked to this and you can tell me to be quiet, was that when you guys had the very first hearing, I thought that you had asked them to increase the buffer zone on the north side of the lot? Wait a minute. Northeast side of the lot or east side of the lot? And it appeared in the revised plan that they had decreased it.
We'll discuss that.
Oh, okay. All right. And the only other thing that I had noticed, when Mark and I went back out there was that there is an irrigation system in there. And that the areas that are now, rhododendrons and kind of landscape plantings were supposed to be their natural vegetation in their prior, order, so, okay.
Betsy?
Okay, I have two comments. One is, whatever the prior order was supposed to be, that's what it should be. So find out what that is.
Yep.
The other is well, I'm gonna tell everybody right now, I said it right at the beginning of the hearing, and Matt made a comment that the oak trees some had been pruned or whatever, so they weren't natural. This is exactly what natural vegetation is. These are oak trees. They're in the A zone to the salt marsh. And so I just want everybody to know that I'm going to vote against this no matter, what the decision is. I mean, you all can choose how you want to do it. But I do think if people do choose to approve this, that the trees should be between the house and Seepit River and not in these little alleyways to either side. So that's my comment.
Thank you.
And I'm going to ditto Betsy's comment.
All right. Kevin, you?
No comment.
Okay. I have a question. Looking for the note, I know it's here somewhere, but, they reduced it to 3 trees, I guess. But anyway, they're talking about temporarily relocating a few trees. It started out being 7, I think, that they were gonna do that with, and now it's 3. And I was just wondering if anybody had an opinion as to how viable that is.
Well, they had misrepresented the shrubbery at first. They thought they were all evergreens, but they're ornamental rhododendrons. And the 3, I believe they're fir trees, the spruce trees. There are only 3 I counted.
And one of those little weird trees.
And I don't count that. That's not one of our trees.
All that's gonna have to be changed anyway.
The viability of them
Prior
being
to the addition.
transplanted and living? They will. They'll be spaded and put back in. The only thing I don't understand is how they're gonna put them back in next to a leach field, because the engineers don't understand the size of a root ball.
Right.
And, some people think they're real easy to move around, but those spruce trees, a spade size, is gonna be probably 5 to 6 feet across. And if you look at the leach field for that little cottage, what I guess thing that they're doing, they're in the reserve area, and they're in the leach field. So, I don't know how that's gonna work.
They have.
Practicably.
Yeah, so,
But I didn't even go beyond that.
yeah, I hear
Well,
you.
if it goes in the reserve area, it's a
Yeah,
question
it's
of
their
if it gets
gamble.
used.
Yeah. I mean, if it gets used, they never do, but they strip them out and.
Anybody else have any?
I have a question about, I agree with what Betsy said about the trees going from the house to the salt marsh. However, that is within the A zone, correct?
Yeah, the salt marsh
Yes.
zone goes way back to here.
Yeah. So, I mean, technically, they meet the standards.
Well, they're not
Well, they're
moving
supposed to be
closer.
as close to the resource. The purpose is to put it between the disturbance
Right.
and the resource.
Resource.
Okay, and still within the A zone.
Correct.
Right.
Okay. So I agree with that point, that it should be between the building and the resource.
Those cupolas may need to be relocated anyway because of the mitigation that was required for the prior order.
Okay, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't even know if they're gonna have enough room, because the trees they're proposing, and if it does move forward and everybody's happy with it, the ones that we discussed along the property line, I spaced them out with the stakes today, and they're 3 feet off the lot line, as I said to Matt the other night.
Right.
The root ball is 6 feet. The spade will be on the property line. The canopy of that tree is already over the property line. So, again, they just shove it all to the edges. It should be on the coastal bank, within the salt marsh area, where they do, where.
Locust coastal benches.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't know how they're gonna, and tupulas, Mark is really concerned, tupulas don't transplant that well when they get that big, because they have a taproot that's really huge. They're just like a cedar. The bigger they get, the harder they are to regenerate. So that was, I know that was a concern of Mark's.
All right. So Jen, I have a question for you. It sounds like that we would want some, if we were to issue a favorable order, we would want some substantial changes with regard to what they're proposing with the trees.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And the mitigation planting.
as far as what kind of a motion to put on the table,
I'd make a motion to accept, and then everyone would have an opportunity to.
Yeah, it has to be a motion to accept.
Yes.
But the question is, her question is,
You would
What
need
do
a
we do?
revised.
are we going to accept what they submitted, or are we going to accept
No.
something that's, pretty significantly revised? That's the question.
You would need a revised plan. You could do it two ways. You could have the staff look at it, but I wasn't at the last hearing, so me personally would feel uncomfortable with what you
Well, it has
guys
to come back
discussed. I
before
can
us.
watch the tape.
You're not on the quorum.
it has to come back
Or it
before
can,
us.
it can come back before you for
before
approval
us.
prior to the sign off on the building permit and prior to the removal of those oaks.
Correct.
Well, let me write this down. Approval of building and prior to removal of oaks. Okay?
Say it one more time, please.
Oh, so if you wanted to change the plan, revise the plan, you would put a condition in that a revised plan needs to be submitted to the commission, not to the staff, to the commission for review at a hearing date. And then, and prior to the staff signing off on the building permit and prior to the removal of those 3 massive oaks.
Okay, so you would recommend doing that rather than conditioning the changes that we discussed?
Oh, no,
But we
that
still
would,
need
that
it.
would be, the
would be
revised plan would incorporate
gotcha.
your changes
Yep.
and, and your changes, you need to kind of go through them with me. I know that Peter wanted those poles removed from the beach, so that would be one. I know that, there was a previous order that said no irrigation, it was ongoing with the deed,
Has to be
and
removed.
that has to be removed. If you want to move the tupelos, so the tupelos are between the addition and the addition in the bank?
Why don't we have some
Oaks. They're cutting out 50 inches of.
Oh, we can do oaks.
And they're leaving on that entire lot in the A zone. There will be 1 4-inch oak left on the whole entire lot.
I know.
Oh, there's a bunch of.
So it would be practical to
Just
ask
slide
for
it
calipers,
onto-
calipers, but we
There's
do
never-
more.
Yeah, and some should be oaks. Some should be oaks, some should be tupelos.
That's fine. What would you guys like? Tell me what you want, and I will put it in writing.
I'd say
And
the tupelos and 2 additional oaks. Oh,
2 tupelos, 2 oaks,
No,
Well,
the
the
tupelos
six-
that are already here, 6 tupelos
stay.
There should be
stay. Well,
7.
not necessarily stay. Some of those can move out in front, and so can the oaks.
Okay, guys, let's start with, because Susan's getting confused, I'm blaming you, Susan. I'm getting confused. Okay, let's start with, if you were to approve it, the 4 tupelos what do you want done with the 4 proposed cupolas? Do you want them to remain, or do you want them to be relocated on the lot somewhere?
There are 8 cupolas, there are 4 along the
Yes, I got
line.
that.
There's 1 over here, there's 1 over here, and there are 2 here.
Yes, I
Well, they
got
re-
that.
No, that's not the plan you want.
Oh,
This is the
sorry.
plan. Again, they
There's one
took.
over here.
We're looking at a plan dated April 10th, 18, or did he bring one to the
We have a
hearing?
revised plan for 10/18.
Okay, yeah.
And
I've got-
from the old plan, there were 3 cupolas on the east side,
Now there are 2.
and now there are 2.
There's 2, and I see one over here.
4, 5, 6.
Yeah, he moved one.
There's still 8 cupolas.
Right.
1, 2, 3,
Yes, there
4,
are.
5,
That's it.
6,
Yes, I
7,
got that.
8.
Right.
I'm talking about the 4 lined up like little soldiers.
Yes. On the west side.
Do you want those to say, do you
Leave
want?
those 4 there.
Okay.
All the other 4 come out in front of the house.
Agreed.
Okay, got it. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you, Bets. Wow. All right, okay, so those.
Behind the
long
house,
week.
actually, from the standpoint.
I
of
know,
the
I'm
street,
sorry. The
right?
front of the house to me is always looking.
No,
Water
so-
side, to me too.
So the 4 on the west side are remaining, the 2 in the front and the 2 on the side are to be relocated between the addition and the bank.
Yes.
Got it.
Correct.
In front of the picture.
What was it?
Plus 2 oaks.
Okay, now guys, and this is where I have to step in. There's not enough room to put 6 trees properly spaced between that addition.
Doesn't just have to be between the addition, it can be between the house.
There's a
How
patio
far is it
there.
from here to here? How far is this?
How many I can tell you? I'm getting my scale.
Trees along there with that feet.
110 feet. Well, he has, just so you know, Jen, he has these trees 11 foot on center.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah,
know we saw one recently. with a
so you
scale.
want to put 6,
See, you
11
just-
feet on center and scatter them in there?
That's pushing it.
If that's what you guys are gonna require to replace the oaks, then just not allow the addition. I mean, you know, you cannot,
I'd say stick with the 4, but what's the compatibility of
Well, you-
Tupelo and Oaks?
Well, the amazing thing is, he can cram them all close together on the property lines, that's what they all do. But when we
Yeah, but
want
not
to
in
cram
the
them
view.
close together where, in the A buffer, they don't like to do that. I mean, that's the hard part. I mean, I totally understand they want their view, but then they shouldn't have put the addition where there were the only 3 substantial oaks in the A buffer.
Right.
I mean, they could have even moved that addition forward,
those four on the west property line might have to move anyway.
because their patio, their supposedly permitted patio, is 14 feet off the coastal bank. You can't move closer to a resource. The addition's closest place is almost
Yeah,
40 feet away.
But they're trying to take advantage of the existing structure,
Right.
so.
With the 2-story.
Remember, this little part under here has no first floor.
It's just gonna be like an open archway.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see the architecturals.
He explained it
So
at the
how they
thing
tie
first,
on.
yeah.
It's not a.
The
That's how
existing
it's
to the
tied
new.
across here.
That makes sense, I
The man
mean,
across.
Yeah, it
the
does
I'm
make
not saying I
sense.
agree, but it
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. No, it does
little
make sense.
peephole.
Of course. They could have, well, no.
So none of the trees can go in front of that little peephole.
Why?
That's the only view that the man across the street has.
Oh, okay, yep.
Did I hear somebody mention that there were outstanding mitigation requirements from the last order?
It appears that way.
Yes, and we said we
Okay.
wanted to put it into the plan.
All right.
I actually had one other thing, and I gotta find it.
That's what I'm saying, they're gonna have some of that vegetation on the side where they're proposing those cupolas. I'm pretty sure when I looked at the old plan that was mitigation. I will double check, and if there is missing mitigation in that area, we will require them to replace it and kind of show that on their revised plan.
Okay. And you've got the irrigation issue on.
Yeah,
on your
and
list.
that'll
Okay.
all be findings too.
Here it is, somewhere. and it's, I don't know if it's our issue, but it's definitely should be brought to the building permit or zoning's issue. There's 23%, 21.4% lot coverage. And I don't know if
But that's
that's,
including parking and paving, they're allowed to have 40%.
Yeah.
okay. Wow, that lot doesn't look, all right,
Yeah.
yeah, I know.
Looks like they
It's
have
weird.
about 70%.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they,
Guess not.
They-
Well, we're
they-
not counting all this down
their
here.
Oh,
lot
that's
probably comes down
down to
here.
the water.
Yeah.
So about the trees, how many do you want in front of the addition in the house if you approve it?
Well, the two that are up top here should be gone.
Yeah.
It should, that,
Okay.
those two for sure.
Okay, do you want those to
And
be
then-
tupelos or oaks?
Oaks,
Okay, so, oak,
oak.
oak, okay. So replace the two tupelos, okay, with oaks in front of the addition. Okay, so that takes care of those two.
And those can be the 6.5, if he can find 6.5-inch tupelos, he can find 6.5-inch oaks.
Right.
Right down
But we're
here.
adding 2 oaks.
No, wait.
There are 8 trees here.
And you want 2 more, you want
We want 10 trees.
10 trees. So-
Okay, where do you want, okay, so I've got 2 oaks in front of the, between the addition and the bank,
New trend.
okay? Where, what else?
2 tupelos between the structure and where they have a armored coastal bank.
Yes,
I mean,
So
did I
you
say
got 2 oaks and 2
2 oaks and 2 tupelos.
got it, okay.
I think I said that 10 minutes ago.
I'm certain you did.
Okay, now, what do you want me, so that removes all the trees,
Move this one down to here.
so you still have 8 trees on the lot, where do you want the 2 other ones, guys? If you approve it.
Well, staff recommendation.
Well, that's their choice. They have to come back with a plan for us, where they're gonna be.
They're not to be west of the house.
Well, they reduced the mitigation from the first plan, which I thought was kind of ironic, that they totally reduced it by like 2/3. They gave, that little piece right here is what we had. That is what we have now.
They added
No,
it
they-
to that.
No, they
added it
didn't.
to
No, they didn't.
This is bigger than it used to be on
Where?
over here, I'm
Where?
pretty sure.
No, it's not.
It's not?
No. It's got the same little jog, and it's right along the area to remain. That's the same exact size. Jog, cross, down.
Actually, you guys, you specifically asked them to increase the mitigation on the east side of the house.
Which was,
His original mitigation calculation for the east side of the house was 105 feet, square feet. It is now 53 square feet.
all right, so they did reduce it.
So you were right. They reduced it. You didn't ask
Well, I
them
think
to.
originally.
And they
yeah,
actually
over.
reduced the other one, too.
Let them come back.
Nope, they did, you're right. They,
They took it from here and they put it over here.
no, they didn't. They only added,
5 minutes, I turned into a pumpkin.
Yeah.
I'm already a pumpkin.
I have to
I'm a
talk to you
rotten
guys about
I'm on the
pumpkin.
verge of exploding.
Grandchildren are allowed.
Why don't you put your motion on the table?
I did.
Did you put a positive motion
I
on the
put a
table?
positive
Yes.
Did
motion on the
anybody
table.
second it? Peter, did you second it?
I second.
So, we have a positive motion and a second.
Okay, wait
for
a minute, positive motion and a second with the findings from the previous order, putting 4 trees, 2 tupelos, 2 oaks between the addition and the armored coastal bank, adding 2 more tupelos with a revised plan, and they have to submit a revised plan to this board for approval at a hearing prior to the removal of those oaks and the sign off on the building department permit by staff, along with removing the in-ground irrigation that they have along their little their little landscape plantings, and removing the Peter, your poles on the beach.
Right.
Yeah, got it.
And I,
What she said.
All
And
right.
one more bit more. It's in my
Are we
brain,
ready
let's
to
go.
vote?
well, I just,
It's not.
we didn't really finish addressing how close it was to the lot line with a 6-foot ball. But if no, everybody's all set with that, I don't care.
In the revised plan, they all have to be,
On their own lot.
well, yeah, so
Where
that
they
the-
can grow to their full
so
mature.
that the canopy is on their own
They need
lot.
to be 6
Even the
feet
roof
from
walls
the
have a
lot
lot.
line, is that
No,
what you're saying?
Well, right now, yeah, they're only 2 feet,
Right.
some of them.
Well, they're not gonna be there anymore.
Yeah, okay. And these are only 3 feet, so.
So
Those are
what do you think, 6? 5
Minimum.
Minimum of 6 foot off the property line,
on the center?
center, yeah.
Well, I think we could put that in there.
Yes.
But they are 6 feet off the property line, Maury.
That's what I thought.
If I look at the center of their little tree,
Which side
On
are you
a
on?
20
You're on the
scale.
wrong side.
We're looking at the other side.
oh, I'm
2.5,
sorry.
3, Maury already did it. and
Okay.
already showed it to Matt.
Okay, so I'm wrong, okay, 2 below. On east side, move 10 feet off property line.
6.
6 feet off property line.
6
At
feet
least.
to the
Center.
center of the root ball.
Okay,
But some of them are gonna be,
And
aren't
also-
gonna be there anymore. They're gonna be moved into.
And,
okay.
and
Right.
the last
So that's
thing
for those
is,
remaining
not that
then.
it's part of this, but they need to get rid of the illegal floats. Because they have 2 of those jet ski things or something in the water.
That's the
That's
pole.
That's what we were talking about earlier.
No, I was actually talking about the stuff on the beach that
Beach.
Peter pointed out, in the beach.
Those were the pipes, but then they also got these big black things attached to the dock.
That's,
When did you go out there?
Did I
Yeah.
go out there?
Yeah.
Last time and this time.
Are-
I went today.
Oh, because they must have, were those jet ski floats out there the last time?
Nope. but they
I
were there
have,
this time.
no, yeah, okay, because I'm like, what jet ski floats?
Yeah, 2 of them black.
Okay. Good catch.
I didn't go back out.
Shall we
I was
vote
just-
on this
do.
positive
Move the
order as conditioned?
Madam Chairman,
Is there an opportunity to ask a question?
No.
Nope.
No.
You're up.
Sorry,
We can talk to you afterwards.
unofficially.
All right, all those
We
in,
can talk to them.
take the vote, guys.
come on.
I'll hit her with the pen.
Madam Chair, the question.
Call the question.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Let's put our
Raise your hands.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed?
Fine, wait a minute, do that again.
Mark's not voting.
1,
I'm not voting.
oh, that's right.
So
1,
Peter,
2,
Steve,
3, 4.
Jamie, Mary, Kevin, opposed.
4.
Betsy, Maury.
Correct.
We're opposed.
5 to 2.
Yeah.
Mark's not on the quorum.
Where's 5?
6 vote no.
1, 2, 3, 4, Peter. Peter,
Peter,
Steve,
Steve.
Jamie's 3,
Peter,
Mary's
Steve,
4.
Jamie, Mary,
Kevin.
Kevin.
Oh, Steve, because he didn't have his hand up. Okay.
Yeah, he's
I
hard to,
did.
he's hard to see.
Yeah, you missed
My
it.
There's a sweet little thing over there.
I have other business.
Yes, Betsy has other business.
I have other business. It was supposed to have been sent to you today, but I know Jen was slammed and apparently so was Courtney.
Just tell them.
I'm sending you an invitation.
Oh, sorry about that.
May 6th for the ribbon cutting for the boardwalk.
It's a week from Sunday.
May 6th, 6/6?
May 6th at 1 PM will be the ribbon cutting. We're getting, Sue Moran has promised me big scissors, and I'm getting a blue
Okay,
ribbon.
we're invited. Next item.
We're invited, and I'm hoping you all come because I have jobs for you.
All right,
Shouldn't have said that.
thank you.
Should have
Jen,
said you had more
I'm sick.
nerves. You
Just-
might have got.
enough!
Just
Jen,
guys,
it's your item.
Yep, just real quick, I'm gonna add a condition, a subsection to your standard conditions. We have been faced with a number of properties where the contractors are just using the straw wattles or the mulch socks, and they are failing miserably all over town, even though the order of conditions says staked hay bales, they're using these socks. So I'm putting a a bold little subsection under the limit of work, which says, please be advised, the use of a straw slash mulch, wattle slash sock, I don't know what this, is not allowed unless approved in writing by the conservation administrator. The conservation administrator reserves the right, I might just say under the commission's authority, to revoke any approval if this method is determined to be ineffective or is not maintained.
Excellent.
So if they install it, we go out there, they're supposed to have hay bales, they don't have it in writing from me. I mean, we gotta take a hard line sometimes, it's shut down, everybody off-site, get your straw bales here and move it forward.
All right, do we need to take a vote on that?
No,
No?
I'm just,
Okay.
I mean, you'll vote next time you have a thing.
Can we get a copy of the standard order of conditions?
Oh, I didn't send that to you, Steve.
No,
Here,
you didn't.
I'm sorry, I will send this to you.
Thank you.
All right,
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Thank you.